Chapter 221. Everyone stopped and Luo Xiaobai asked, "Teacher, is it the breeding season for spider crabs? Why do they appear near the territory of the sandworms?" Lu Renkuang also rubbed his head. "Yes. The spider crabs that have just molted are soft and can't even be eaten by the sandworms." Wenren smiled. "Do you really think the spider crabs are stupid? There must be a reason why they come here to molt. After molting, the spider crabs need a lot of food. Not all of these spider crabs will shed their shells. Only the female spider crabs will shed their shells. The male spider crabs will hunt for clam worms after the female spider crabs shed their shells. Every creature has its own way of survival. You still have a lot to learn." Han Fei nodded. "So we just happened to run into them." Lu Renkuang added, "If we had known this, we might as well have gone down from the sea willows at the beginning. Although there are many vines, at least it's not like here, where there's no way out." Han Fei said generously, "In the future, we still have a lot of time to go into the water. This is only the level 2 fishery. If you don't even dare to go down here, how can you expect to go to the S3? 3? Did you go down to the fishery outside the 2? Wenren Yu agreed with him this time. Han Fei is right. For you in the future, these are just small things. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. In fact, there are no treasures in the deep sea jungle. What is it like? The ordinary things in your eyes are treasures in the eyes of ordinary fishermen. There are exotic creatures here, but few people have the ability to catch them. Those who can catch them will disdain to do so. That's the logic. All the best resources are in the hands of the strong." Han Fei and the others couldn't agree more. At the very least, for someone like Wenren Yu, the clam worms, the ghost serpents, and the enormous plate rays were all vegetables that he could kill with a single stab of his finger. At this moment, Han Fei was more and more convinced that only the stone forest and the fiery mountain might have real benefits in the level 2 fishery. The stone forest was sealed, so the fiery mountain should be ranked first for a reason. As for the deep sea jungle and the piercing electricity zone, they were actually not a problem for the strong. If they could get the soul resistance pearls, others could naturally get them too. Therefore, in a certain sense, they had at most made up for the gap between themselves and others, and could not be considered to have surpassed others. Zhang Xuanyu had rested enough. Lines appeared on his body, and it seemed that his strength had increased significantly. "Can you do it?" Zhang Xuanyu patted his chest. "Great. Not only that, I feel that I'm only one step away from becoming an intermediate great fishing master." Han Fei couldn't help but click his tongue. Zhang Xuanyu's progress was not slow. It had only been 3 months since the Blue Sea Arena and he was about to become an intermediate great fishing master? This time, everyone directly passed through the water and did not encounter any special obstacles. The unsightly sea urchins and sea snakes couldn't stop them at all. Soon they saw a huge tree. Yes, there was more than one in the surroundings, but every single one of them was 100 meters tall and took up an area of close to 500 meters. This was the biggest tree he had ever seen. Therefore, if it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't open his mouth, he would definitely exclaim in surprise. Looking down from above with a fishing hook, he didn't feel anything. But at this moment, it was simply breathtaking. The thousands of willows rippled with the waves, and each willow branch had a large or small wooden fish hanging on it. And the wooden fish often bumped into each other, making a dong 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 sound. Han Fei had no doubt that if there were bells hanging on it, this tree would be called a bell tree. Not only Han Fei, but the others were also stunned. Lu Renkuang was curious. Those wooden fish really know how to stick out their tongues. Are they alive or dead? Luo Xiaobai nodded. They should be controlled by the sea willows. Xia Shaochan exclaimed, "This is so beautiful. Why is there light on the tree?" Yes, everyone noticed it. In the dark bottom of the sea, any flash was extremely dazzling. At this moment, there were flashes on those sea willows, like the stars in the night sky, but not as many as the stars. On each tree, there were about 100 spots of light. Han Fei was overjoyed. It's the wood's spiritual fruit, which contains several times more spiritual energy than ordinary spiritual fruits. It can enhance the human body's affinity with plants. The fruit core can calm people down and enhance cultivation. It's a good thing. Xia Xiaochan asked, how do you know? Han Fei explained, I read the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants before. It said that the divine tree in the sea produces wood spiritual fruit. At first, I didn't think that the divine tree was talking about the sea willows. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Let me try. The forest could be regarded as Luo Xiaobai's world. Almost without her deliberately, vines immediately stretched out from all directions, like countless tentacles, trying to climb up the tree trunk from the seabed soil. But before she climbed up the tree trunk, Luo Xiaobai's face changed and she hurriedly said, this tree has consciousness. As soon as Luo Xiaobai finished speaking, everyone saw a cloud of dust flying, the soil was broken open, and countless vines entangled together, tearing each other. Luo Xiaobai said, Han Fei, give me spiritual energy. Han Fei stepped on a spirit-gathering array and injected spiritual energy into Luo Xiaobai's body. Luo Xiaobai's eyes were listless and she was angry for a moment. Gradually, only the whites of her eyes were left. But the vines around were going crazy, like bamboo shoots after a rain, emerging one after another and growing rapidly. At first, it was just a contest between the vines. But then the movement became louder and louder. Gradually, Han Fei and the others found that the soil under their feet was breaking and vines stretched out from under the soil. Xiaobai's vines are flower vines, and these dry and dark ones are tree vines. The four of them attacked at the same time, and the tree vines were cut off as soon as they came out. But there were still countless tree vines attacking from all directions. Han Fei said, not only tree vines but also roots. Such a big tree has countless roots. You guys block it. Let me have a try. What the hell is this sea willow? Then Han Fei threw out his fishing rod. The fish hook turned into a water vein, like a slender spring, and quickly approached the glowing place. But halfway through, it was discovered by those willows. As a result, all the wooden fish on the tree began to move. This movement was really eye-opening. What do you mean I can vomit until your scalp is numb? These wooden fish swished wildly as if there were arrows in their mouths. Han Fei's plan failed. He couldn't pass through it all. Those arrow-like tongues almost blocked all Han Fei's way. Even the blood spider silk was pulled apart again, and Han Fei's fishing rod lost its hook again. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. It seems that it's time to replace this lousy fishing rod. How many times will a fishing rod of this level break in the future? Seeing that He Xiaoyu was about to attack in stealth mode, Han Fei grabbed her. It's useless. Those wooden fish seem to be able to feel the pulse of the water. Your stealth is ineffective against them. Zhang Xuanyu scratched his head. It seems to have nothing to do with me. Han Fei asked, then what if you encounter this situation? Zhang Xuanyu shrugged. What can I do? Hit it. As long as I'm strong enough, it's not impossible to destroy thousands of willow branches with one strike. No, I have to try. With that, Zhang Xuanyu launched the 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. However, at this moment, Zhang Xuanyu was much more powerful. The powerful strike set off huge waves at the bottom of the sea. However, under this blow, less than 20 willow branches were destroyed. The rest were at most knocked away by the wooden fish. At most, there were no more than 50 branches. Zhang Xuanyu stepped back, looking embarrassed. After all, those willow branches are soft. My rod is not as sharp as a knife. Lu Renkuang nodded. Then let me try? Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu nodded. Han Fei discovered that armorists were not just meat shields. In the sea, they were even more versatile than Luo Xiaobai. The explosive power of armorists might not be as good as that of hunters and soul warriors, but their group combat ability was very strong. As soon as he attacked, thousands of knife shadows appeared. Of course, there were not many armorists who could reach Lu Renkuang's level. Normal armorists could only use the weapons in the armor box. Ordinary people couldn't catch the 1,000-blade tortoise at all. With Lu Renkuang's attack, the sky was full of knife light and sword shadows. Although it looked messy when it was used as a meat grinder, who cared if it looked good or not? For a moment, countless willow branches were crushed, causing the vines of this tree to suddenly stagnate. Han Fei's eyes lit up. Game, the strength of the willow branches is not high. However, as soon as he said so, countless wooden fish suddenly began to collide with each other, making a dong 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 sound. At first, this kind of collision sound seemed to be nothing. However, when a tree began to collide, other nearby trees also began to collide. For a time, the entire water area was filled with the sound of knocking. Puff! Luo Xiaobai suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood and said with a pale face, "Retreat!" Chapter 222. Although the crowd did not know what was going on, they immediately began to retreat. "Little White, what's wrong?" Luo Xiaobai said telepathically, "It's very strong. I just tried to compete for the consciousness of this sea willow, but I encountered extremely strong resistance. However, I also control a part of it. Those lights aren't treasures, they're just a disguise." Xia Xiaochan asked, "What disguise?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Of all the lights, only one is a real spiritual fruit. But that's not the problem right now. The sound of the wooden fish is getting stronger and stronger." By the time Luo Xiaobai finished, the thumping sound had become rhythmic. This was different from the wooden fish struck by the monk. When these trees struck the wooden fish, it actually created ripples at the bottom of the water. Moreover, the ripples were getting faster and faster, and the power of the ripples was getting stronger and stronger. Boom! Finally, a dong sound erupted almost at the same time. It was like rolling thunder, and the ripples were as turbulent as knives, directly sweeping toward everyone. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Spiritual energy protective cover. Without any delay, they immediately activated their spiritual energy protective covers, which looked like 5 glowing bodies. Bang! The 5 of them flew out almost at the same time, and their protective covers burst at the same time. Zhang Xuanyu was shocked. "No way! Is that strong?" Lu Renquang said, "My knives were all knocked away." Xia Xiaochan asked, "How can we break through this wide-range attack?" For some reason, Han Fei suddenly thought of the scene he saw on the rock-holding turtle's steel, where a stick smashed a huge wave. "Hurry up! Break the surface with a single point." Before everyone could understand what it meant to break the surface with a single point, another ripple rolled over. This time, the sound was uniform. The sound of the wooden fish striking against each other was like a great bell. Chi waves rose up, as if they wanted to slaughter all the enemies in the surroundings. Han Fei's face darkened, and dozens of blue sea wandering dragon daggers stabbed at one point of the ripples like arrows. With one point broken, that ripple seemed to have smashed open a hole, and the ripple immediately rolled past everyone's bodies. Lu Renquang's eyes lit up. "That's impressive. You can do that?" Han Fei smiled bitterly. "It's actually the ripples caused by the airwaves. As long as he could break through that layer of qi, everything would be fine. More importantly, we have to think of a way to kill our way in. The sea willow protects its fruit within and without. That fruit must be something extraordinary. It's definitely worth the trip." Zhang Xuanyu said, "I'm good at breaking the surface with a single point. I can block the ripples. But how do we get the fruit?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Only Lu Renquang and Han Fei are suitable. Quangquang's knife array is too messy. Don't accidentally smash the fruit. I'll go. You're not as fast as me. You clear the obstacles and I pick the fruits." Han Fei nodded. With that said, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan swam out when the wave of attacks was over. 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers were revolving around them. This was Han Fei's strategy. Although he didn't seem to have grasped the true usage of spiritual tools, it was still relatively easy for him to crush those wooden fish tongues. Therefore, in everyone's eyes, Han Fei seemed to have become a spinning top. Boom! The ripples exploded again. But this time, it didn't shake Han Fei. Han Fei drilled a hole in the huge ripples. Along the way, thousands of tongues shot out, but they couldn't stop such a meat grinder at all. And Xia Xiaochan, in order to save energy, sat directly on Han Fei and let Han Fei take her with him. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Why don't you hold me? Why do you look like you're sitting?" Xia Xiaochan scoffed. "Cut the crap. Hurry up." When Han Fei completely rushed into the dense willow branches, the 7 chains behind him quickly shot out and pierced the trunk of the sea willow. At this moment, Han Fei looked like a sea monster with a strange shape. Although he was too small compared to the sea willow, this didn't prevent him from shuttling through the willow branches. At this moment, Han Fei passed by a glowing spiritual fruit. When he approached it, he found that it was a golden fruit. And it was not the fruit that was glowing, but the fruit was wrapped in a layer of pale golden spiritual energy. Xia Xiaochan was about to take action when she heard Han Fei say, "It's fake." Xia Xiaochan paused and sat on Han Fei again. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. There was no data, so of course it was fake. He directly smashed this fake fruit and continued to the next one. Doing this repeatedly, Han Fei was like a spinning top jumping in the willow branches, which surprised everyone. Zhang Xuanyu looked at Lu Renkuang. "Next time, you should also sort out your messy knives and swords. If you can wrap thousands of knives and let them spin around you, you can drill through this sea willow." Lu Renkuang scratched his belly. He was a little tempted. This kind of fighting method was indeed very strong. He was almost armed to the teeth. Luo Xiaobai said, "To deal with this kind of attack, unless we use brute force, there is no chance to fight it head-on. When these billions of knocks are coordinated, the power is really terrifying. If these sea willows don't attack in a wide range, we can't break them at all." Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai said to him, "Be careful, stay vigilant. The impact of the wooden fish is getting stronger and stronger." At this moment, Han Fei had smashed half of the fake fruits. Just when he was about to continue in this way, many wooden fish swam towards him. "What do you mean?" Bam! 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 Countless wooden fish around Han Fei exploded one after another. One or two couldn't shake him at all. But hundreds of them were exploding crazily at him. How could he stand it? Luo Xiaobai and the others' faces changed drastically. Not good help. Without Luo Xiaobai's order, Lu Renkuang had already activated the torrents of knives and swords and rushed out, followed by Zhang Xuanyu. A group of people joined the battle. Luo Xiaobai tried to fight with this sea willow again. Han Fei's pressure was greatly reduced, and the gyroscopic knife array was back on track again. He looked back. He was afraid that they wouldn't be able to hold on for long, especially Luo Xiaobai, who had to fight with such a big tree. He activated the Wandering Dragon art. Han Fei sprinted quickly. This was just a sea willow. As far as the eye could see, there were 4 or 5 of them. If the 5 of them couldn't even take down a sea willow, how could they deal with the rest? Just when Han Fei quickly approached a glowing spiritual fruit, he found that this spiritual fruit was dodging with the willow branches. A string of data appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Wood spiritual fruit, this is a spiritual fruit born from the essence of the sea willow for 100 years. Eating it can enhance the affinity with spiritual plants and greatly enhance spiritual power. The spiritual fruit contains a wood spiritual bead, which can be worn for a long time to calm the mind and improve the efficiency of cultivation. Spirit level high quality. 29,216 points. Han Fei said to her via voice transmission, "This is it." Xia Xiaochan suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of the wood spiritual fruit in the next second. She cut off the willow branches and picked the wood spiritual fruit. Vim, vim, vim. The sound of self-explosion continued, and Xia Xiaochan quickly flashed again and sat on Han Fei's body again. The sea willow seemed to be angry. It gave up attacking Lu Renkuang and the others, and all the willow branches swept at Han Fei. In the blink of an eye, there were only dense willow branches in front of Han Fei. Although they failed to trap Han Fei could only drill holes in these willow branches. Rumble! While everyone was stunned, a huge roar burst out from the intertwined willow branches. Thousands of wooden fish exploded at the same time, blasting Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan out. Han Fei, who was flying in the water, was blackened all over and coughing up blood. Xia Xiaochan, on the other hand, flashed 100 meters away, which made Han Fei very excited. It would be great if she could teleport. Han Fei shouted, "Retreat first." They retreated for more than 10 kilometers and the roar of the great bell was still not over. Everyone gathered around. Lu Renkuang asked, "Is this the wood spiritual fruit?" Han Fei nodded. "It's a pity that we only got one after such a long time. Xiaobai can eat it first." Xiaobai is the only manipulator here. Maybe after eating it, we can communicate with these sea willows and ask them to drop a few more on their own initiative. In this way, we don't have to fight them. Luo Xiaobai nodded. That should be impossible. These sea willows have a very strong sense of resistance and seem to have a certain degree of spirituality. Han Fei said, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll continue to pick them the old way. We'll stay here for a few days at most, and we'll be able to pick them again. Wenren listened in the distance. That's because you have a tough body and Xia Xiaochan's flashing ability. If you were someone else, you would have been blown up long ago. How could you pick the fruit? But Han Fei and the others didn't think so. Since they could pick them, why not pick more? They couldn't miss such a good thing if they could get it. Cell phone website. Chapter 223. Others might not believe it. After the 5 of them ran away, they sat down again and played fish dragon cards. In the second most dangerous place in the level 2 fishery, they were so unscrupulous and arrogant. 2 hours later, Luo Xiaobai nodded. I'm ready. During these 2 hours, Luo Xiaobai was crazily absorbing and refining the wood's spiritual fruit. Maybe for Han Fei, 30,000 points of spiritual energy were nothing. But for Luo Xiaobai, this was a lot. Her upper limit of spiritual energy was less than 2,000 points. Therefore, she could only borrow 30,000 points of spiritual energy to strengthen herself, temper her body, and enhance her control of spiritual plants. At this time, Luo Xiaobai's aura improved a bit and she looked much more energetic. Xia Xiaochan asked, "Are you a peak-level intermediate great fishing master?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not so fast. However, the effect of this with spiritual fruit is really great. The spiritual energy can only help me take a big step forward in the realm of intermediate great fishing masters. And what's really effective is the spiritual plant affinity. I feel that I can barely control the seaweeds around me now. Maybe I can try to compete with the sea willow again. Zhang Xuanyu was doubtful. Can you? The sea willow is so big. Lu Renkuang nodded. Yes. Let's fight. Fight, 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 we can always get one for each of us to eat. Han Fei was speechless. So it's not you who's going to grab the fruit? Han Fei asked, does the sea willow have consciousness? You can ask them. Anyway, they can bear one every 100 years. We just want one each. Maybe they will give us some. Puff, Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang were speechless. What do you mean they can bear one every 100 years? That's 100 years. You make it sound like it's 100 days. However, Luo Xiaobai nodded. I'll try. After a while, they came again. This time, it was a sea willow. Before they even got close, the wooden fish had already begun to hit the wooden fish with a dong 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 sound. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Let me do it. Luo Xiaobai squatted down, pressed one hand on the ground, and a slender vine extended out and soon entangled with the roots of the sea willow. Luo Xiaobai's eyes turned white again, and she squatted on the ground motionlessly, as if she was really communicating with the sea willow. Han Fei exclaimed, "This ability is so useful. If he became stronger in the future, would he be able to control these sea willows? Or find something like the sea willow tree? It might not be a bad idea to contract it." Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes. Do you think it's easy to find a contractual spiritual plant? Are you trying to defy the heavens with such a huge contracted spiritual plant? Han Fei chuckled. Big is good. Think about it, when you're fighting with someone, if you put such a huge contracted spirit plant outside, you won't even need to use your own hands. You'll be able to crush your opponent to death. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang were speechless as they talked about this boring topic. What's wrong with Han Fei's brain? His imagination is boundless. A moment later, Luo Xiaobai suddenly staggered, giving everyone a fright. Xia Xiaochan shouted, "Xiaobai! What do you think?" Luo Xiaobai's face was pale. She shook her head and said, "Although it's conscious, it's very troublesome to communicate with it. However, it doesn't seem to want to give it to us, and it won't give it to us. It probably wants us to leave." Lu Renkuang said in shock, "So, are you really talking to this tree? Oh my God, you're amazing." Han Fei snorted. "If it doesn't want to give it to us, We'll just rob it. Since we're already here, why won't it give it to us? I don't want to hurt our friendship, so I'm talking to them for their sake. Do you really think we're afraid? Luo Xiaobai hugged her vines and gasped. If you want to rob them, make it quick. I suspect there are greater dangers behind these sea willows. Huh? Luo Xiaobai said, when I was communicating with this sea willow just now, I seemed to perceive a very powerful spiritual plant, much stronger than these sea willows. Han Fei asked, can we rob that very powerful spiritual plant? Luo Xiaobai rolled her eyes. Han Fei shrugged and put on a serious face. It's not easy to rob four at once. Can you hold on with your spiritual energy? Lu Renquang said directly, no. Zhang Xuanyu shook his head. One is enough for me. Han Fei complained, then just use your trump card. Fatty, don't you want to keep your armor art covered in dust? Xiaobai, don't you need to test your death substitute technique? Zhang Xuanyu, I haven't seen you use your mystic killing rod. Do you want to keep it to rot? Only after hearing Han Fei's words did everyone realize that they had subconsciously ignored the combat skills that they had prepared to save for their lives. Xia Xiaochan nodded. Let's try it. Han Fei asked, what are you going to try? Your supreme stab is obviously used for assassination. You can fight one-on-one, but you have to let them fight one-on-one. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay, let's try it. I'll rush in first to attract their attention. Lu Renquang nodded. After you use the death substitute technique, I'll follow. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan will take the opportunity to pick the fruits. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. I'll attack from the other side and create obstacles for the sea willows. Everyone talked at once and came up with a plan, which gave Wenren a headache. However, she also felt somewhat gratified. This was what a team should be like. Luo Xiaobai quickly swam to this sea willow. At the same time, thousands of vines burst out and attacked directly. The vines intertwined and turned into a huge claw, grabbing at the tree. The sea willow's reaction was not slow. Sensing the abnormal movement of the water, thousands of willow branches gathered and pressed down on the vine giant claw. Violent explosions. Jia roared. A figure came out from the violent explosion. A figure flew out of the explosion. But when everyone took a closer look, a big flower bud grew on a vine hundreds of meters away in the blink of an eye, and Luo Xiaobai walked out of the flower bud. Luo Xiaobai shouted, attack! Lu Renquang was unusually solemn, and the armor box was rattling. Swish, swish, 5 knives cut through the air in an instant. One went straight, and the other 4 circled around, extremely fast. The 5 blades advanced together, forming a beautiful cross in the sea. Wherever they passed, willow branches would break and wooden fish would be sent flying. Even the explosion of the wooden fish couldn't shake it. Han Fei shot out like lightning, activated fury, fused with little black and little white, and attached with the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. And Xia Xiaochan flickered and clung to Han Fei. At that moment, Han Fei was as fast as lightning, cutting through the sea, and wherever he passed, the fake golden fruits burst into pieces. However, Han Fei misjudged the temperament of Little Black and Little White. As soon as they created an opportunity for Han Fei, the chains behind Han Fei burst out, and his body almost turned into a stream of light in the sea. Even Wenren Yu was shocked to see this scene. At this moment, Han Fei was very strong. At this time, Han Fei won a huge gap for Xia Xiaochan. Her figure flashed, and a golden fruit had been cut off by Han Fei. But he didn't stop. Like a drill, the million-knife art quickly attacked the next sea willow. Luo Xiaobai ordered, keep up. When they arrived at the second willow, Han Fei had already entered it. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Is this guy crazy? He rushed and just like that? Luo Xiaobai ordered, the plan has changed. You can do whatever you want. Lu Renquang, go in and attract the attacks. Lu Renquang's face was black. Why is it always the two of us? It seems that Han Fei and I are in the same boat. Armor crisscross. 1,000 blades slash. Lu Renquang held his big shield and rushed out, resisting those violent explosions. He said to Han Fei via voice transmission, slow down. My spiritual energy is running out. Not only Lu Renquang's spiritual energy was running out, But Luo Xiaobai, who was controlling the vines all over the sky, was also running out of spiritual energy. After all, not everyone could launch a big move all the time. When Xia Xiaochan got the second wood spiritual fruit, Han Fei still didn't stop and continued to rush to the next one. Luo Xiaobai said to him via voice transmission, "Han Fei, slow down. We need to replenish our spiritual energy." Han Fei paused. When he was about to rush into the third sea willow, he suddenly fell to the bottom of the sea in the middle, stepped on a spirit-gathering array, and swam upside down towards the sea willow. Spiritual energy gushed out of his hands and shot directly into Luo Xiaobai and Lurenquang's bodies. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. What the hell is this? Can the spirit-gathering art be used like this? Xia Xiaochan's face changed drastically at this moment. Not good, the roar is coming again. Bam! Under the huge ripples, Luo Xiaobai was blown away. She had just entangled with the third sea willow, and before she could launch an attack, she was shaken away and vomited blood again. Lurenquang was slightly better. The outer layer of the 1,000-blade slash was broken, but the armor crisscross was still active. Seeing that Han Fei didn't dodge but crashed into the ripples, Xia Xiaochan immediately said to him via voice transmission, "Idiot, are you crazy?" With that, Xia Xiaochan flashed and blocked in front of Han Fei. She seemed to gather all her spiritual energy and stabbed the ripples with the supreme stab. But Xia Xiaochan herself was also knocked away by the ripples, and the cooperation between the two was directly interrupted. Han Fei didn't care at all and passed through the opening made by Xia Xiaochan. Others didn't know that there were no fake fruits in Han Fei's eyes, only real fruits. Puff! When this wood spiritual fruit was picked, Han Fei felt that his mind was stabbed, and a strange power directly broke into his spirit. Cell phone. Chapter 224. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Soul attack? This blow made Han Fei sober up a lot of his madness and bloodthirst. The bloodthirsty Wang was no longer so strong. Han Fei wanted to send a voice transmission to Zhang Xuanyu, asking him to resist this soul attack. But he still couldn't control his body. Although he was already a great fishing master, he still couldn't control Little Black and Little White. Fortunately, Zhang Xuanyu was very sensitive to soul attacks. He immediately changed his face. "Xia Xiaochan, go and help." Luo Xiaobai and Lurenquang were hit by the airwaves again and had both retreated. Zhang Xuanyu glared and the bloodthirsty shark suddenly appeared behind him. He stood on the back of the bloodthirsty mad shark, his eyes bloodshot. Soul explosion. Rumble. In the air, an invisible energy suddenly erupted. Zhang Xuanyu was nailed into the mud at the bottom of the sea like a cannonball. Xia Xiaochan's face changed drastically. Han Fei, come back. Wenren Yu had already appeared next to this sea willow, and the sword grass branches around her were ready to be launched. The current result was still acceptable to her. But if that thing came out, she would have to take action. Han Fei had rushed into the branches of the fourth sea willow at this moment. Let him come out now? How was that possible? The target was close at hand. Although all the wooden fish along the way were exploding and the protective cover broke again and again, the gains were far better than the costs. Spirit gathering, water thickening technique. Han Fei was surrounded by surging spiritual energy, and the seawater around him suddenly seemed to become viscous. At that moment, when Han Fei was about to grab the spiritual fruit, he saw a little person emerging from the mud at the bottom of the sea. Yes, a person. Han Fei was horrified and almost subconsciously turned his body. Immediately after, a branch suddenly whipped the path he had just taken. Han Fei's back was covered in a cold sweat. He saw a tree man, a human-sized tree man, raising his hand, a tree trunk-like hand, waving at him. Han Fei glanced at Wenren Yu and looked at the wood spiritual fruit again. Universe slash. In an instant, a knife cut through the air and Han Fei grabbed the spiritual fruit. But at this time, the branch appeared again, whipping directly at Han Fei. Bim! Another cannonball smashed into the mud, and Han Fei felt his internal organs churning. What the hell is that little tree man? Outside. Roar! A dragon roar echoed. Needless to say, Xia Xiaochan had summoned the giant arowana. Han Fei vomited blood. When he crawled out of the pit, he saw the huge body of the giant arowana roaring at the little treeman. Xia Xiaochan rarely used the giant arowana. With a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar, turbulence was set off at the bottom of the sea, and the sound waves were no weaker than the roar of the wooden fish. However, the tiny tree ant covered its forehead with its tree-like hand and opened its mouth at the giant arowana. In everyone's eyes, the moment the little tree ant roared, Xia Xiaochan suddenly appeared behind it. There was a dazzling spiritual light on the shovel. The attack pierced through the little tree ant. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had actually killed him. This little tree ant was too strange. How could a tree look like a human? But before they were relieved, Xia Xiaochan flew back. In the next second, the branch seemed to appear out of thin air and fell in front of Xia Xiaochan. Dodge! However, as soon as Xia Xiaochan dodged it with a flash, she found that a branch had appeared next to her again. Bang! Xia Xiaochan was whipped away and also vomited blood. This surprised everyone. For the first time in a battle, Xia Xiaochan was injured because she couldn't keep up with the speed. Han Fei jumped out of the pit and caught Xia Xiaochan. At the same time, he shot the blue sea wandering dragon daggers at the tiny tree ant. Clank, clank, clank. Han Fei saw a branch being chopped off and heard a squeaking sound coming from the seawater. He didn't know whether it was crying or aggrievement, but it was very noisy. Wenren Yu, who was about to take action, exclaimed in surprise. Was the tiny tree ant scared? Han Fei hadn't cancelled the fusion yet, but Fury didn't have much time left. He cast the divine healing technique on Xia Xiaochan and rushed at the tiny tree ant with the most barbaric scar of war shadows. At the same time, Han Fei held the water-stirring seal in his hand. A branch suddenly grew out of the tiny trent's hands. Peepa! Han Fei was lashed into the soil again, and the water-stirring seal failed to block it. But Wenren Yu saw clearly that Han Fei had grabbed the branch of the tiny tree ant. Although his entire hand was dripping with blood, he had managed to grab hold of it. The water-stirring seal grew dozens of meters long again and smashed at the tiny tree ant. At the same time, Han Fei pulled the branch and shot the blue sea wandering dragon daggers at the tiny tree ant again. But as soon as he turned his head, Han Fei felt a huge force break free from his hand, and the tiny tree ant drilled into the soil. Did it slip away? A thought flashed in Han Fei's mind. Don't come again, or I'll be whipped to death. Han Fei scratched his head in shock and looked up, only to find that Wenren Yu had approached him. Han Fei wondered, Teacher, are you going to help? Wenren Yu took a deep look at Han Fei. Let's go. One wood spiritual fruit is enough for each of us. That tiny tree ant is not something you can catch. Is it very strong? Wenren Yu shook her head. It is the only unusual creature in the deep-sea jungle. You all know Xiaobai's death substitute. This tiny tree ant can also do that, and it can die for you continuously. Someone once tried to kill it but failed. Xia Xiaochan asked, Teacher, even you can't do it. Wenren Yu shook her head. Sometimes, strength doesn't mean everything, especially for some strange creatures. Unfortunately, Han Fei was far away just now, so he didn't see any data in his eyes. He really didn't know what this tiny tree ant was. However, this tiny tree ant was too arrogant. It even forbade him to come again. Han Fei thought to himself, I'll come again in a few years. If this tiny tree ant didn't appear, it would be fine, but now that it did, Han Fei felt that there must be a secret in this place that no one had discovered. Unfortunately, this exploration was probably going to end here. In the end, if Wenren Yu hadn't come, it would be hard to say what would have happened. Xia Xiaochan wondered, I just stabbed it, but it seemed to be stuck in wood. It didn't seem to have any reaction. Han Fei shrugged. Tree ants don't have hearts. The battle stopped, and all 5 of them were injured one after another. This was still the level 2 fishery. For a moment, everyone could only look at each other. Zhang Xuanyu shook his head slightly. Stop watching. Let's go. Lu Renquang also said, let's go back. I want to eat hot pot. Han Fei thought of something. By the way, that fiery mountain, Wenren Yu snorted coldly. What fiery mountain? Let's go back to town. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. It's time to go back. I need some time to digest. Lu Renkuang agreed. I'm going back to have a good sleep. I'm swollen from soaking in the water every day. Han Fei said disdainfully, don't make excuses for your weight. You are just fat. Lu Renkuang scoffed. Although you have lost a lot of weight, you are about the same size as me now. Han Fei, on the sea. Han Fei was scooping up a lot of kelp, and he also led the others to find some jellyfish. Anyway, he stuffed everything that could be stuffed into his sea-swallowing seashell. He stuffed everything into Wenrenyu's sea-swallowing seashell. He caught hundreds of sea urchins. In the end, he even wanted to catch 2 turtles. Wenrenyu's face was black. Han Fei, that's enough. Take off. Han Fei and Lu Renkuang shouted at the same time, Teacher, don't worry. We're almost there. Wenrenyu was helpless. I don't have enough space. Han Fei said, It's okay, teacher, we still have cabins. Wenrenyu. Ignoring Han Fei, they didn't set off to return to the Blue Sea town until the sky filled up the fish cabin. On the way, Han Fei asked, Teacher, why can't we go to the fiery mountain? Wenrenyu said flatly across the boat, You'll know when the time comes. Anyway, we've been to the most dangerous places in the level 2 fishery except the fiery mountain, and we've got all the opportunities we deserve. In the future, I need to properly digest it. On the surface, Wenrenyu was very calm, but in fact, she hadn't been calm in the past 2 months. This group of children was too good at tormenting. Not only did they catch exotic creatures, but they also dug up the nest of the Blue Sea wandering dragon. Of the 4 widely recognized forbidden areas of the level 2 fishery, they went to 3 of them. Not to mention the piercing electricity zone and the deep sea jungle, the sky-holding turtle alone almost shocked her. At this time, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly asked, Han Fei, can I have a look at the stick you pulled out? Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu contemptuously and said, I've decided to use a stick now. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. You make it sound like I'm going to rob you. Although you pulled it out, you can't carry it. Han Fei nodded. I'll be able to carry it sooner or later. At the same time. Chapter 225. When they returned to the Thug Academy, it was getting late, and Old Bai and Xiao Zhan were making hot pot. Before the hot pot was heated, the 2 of them began to drink. As the 2 of them were drinking, they suddenly raised their heads and saw Wenrenyu walking through the air toward them. It's Xiao Zhan's turn next time. Xiao Zhan said in surprise, You're back so soon? Wenrenyu said gloomily, How long do you want me to stay on the sea? Xiao Zhan quickly put down the wineglass. Wait, have they learned spiritual perception? Wenrenyu sneered. Spiritual perception? Your good students have been to all the places except the fiery mountain. They even released the rock-holding turtle. Don't you know anything about it in the town? Rock-holding turtle? Old Bai's eyes almost popped out. He said in shock, The stone forest? Wenrenyu narrowed her eyes. Do you know there are rock-holding turtles in the stone forest? Old Bai shook his head. How would I know? It's just a legend, but no one has seen it. You've all been there. The stone forest is a maze with a seal. No one knows what it suppresses. The great fishing masters who went in almost died of suffocation. Those who came out were all lucky. How would I know there were really rock-holding turtles in it? Xiao Zhan stood up curiously. So, did you see the rock-holding turtle? Did the boulder on its back really record a magical combat skill? Wenrenyu's face darkened. I didn't see it. That rock-holding turtle was stronger than me. The 5 of them watched it for a while. However, they only saw a few pictures. You can ask them about the details. They should be here by now. As soon as Wenrenyu said that, Lu Renkuang's wailing voice came from the door. I smell hot pot. I'm so happy to have hot pot as soon as I get home. Han Fei hurriedly shouted, President, don't rush to eat. I have fresh ingredients here. Zhang Xuanyu said, Can you 2 be more ambitious? Xia Xiaochan said, I miss my treehouse so much. It's not comfortable to drift on the sea and sleep in the open. That's not right. We often eat hot pot on the sea. Accompanied by their chatter, the cold campus of the Thug Academy seemed to have a little more vitality. Of course, it was only a little more. The 5 of them ran to the table with joy, said hello to Old Bai and Xiao Zhan, and began to work. Lu Renkuang asked, Han Fei, where's the barbecue grill? It's here. You can roast it yourself. Han Fei took out the barbecue grill and threw it on the ground. At the same time, he took out a bunch of things from his sea-swallowing seashell, including kelp, jellyfish, squid tentacles, clams, conches, clams, crayfish, starfish, pearlfish. In the end, he even took out a plate ray and a spider crab. Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. Han Fei, when did you catch plate rays and spider crabs? He was beaten to death on the roadside. I picked him up casually. Seeing this scene, Old Bai and Xiao Zhan were dumbfounded. Old Bai said helplessly, are you going to gain experience or to look for ingredients? Xiao Zhan sweated. Han Fei, did you stuff all these things into your sea-swallowing seashell? Han Fei scratched his head. There's nothing else to stuff. He could at least use his sea-swallowing seashell. Oh, I also have hundreds of giant squid tentacles. Teacher Wenrenyu also has a lot of sea urchins and the like. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Wenrenyu and thought to themselves, how did you become a picker too? Wenrenyu said gloomily, hee, my sea-swallowing seashell is full. The hot pot was boiling, and a group of teachers and students sat around the table. Old Bai only ate, and Xiao Zhan was asking about his experience in the level 2 fishery. After a while, Xiao Zhan asked, so, you can all perceive with your spiritual senses now? Luo Xiaobai said, yes. But my and Lu Renkuang's perception range is still very small. Han Fei and Xiaochan's range is the largest. Xiao Zhan's heart was moved. Originally, they just wanted to try, but they didn't expect the 5 children to really succeed. Xiao Zhan asked, is the rock-holding turtle really as amazing as you say? It can even strengthen your spiritual perception? Luo Xiaobai said, yes. Han Fei was the first to discover it. After we tried it, we were very sure. Xiao Zhan took a deep breath. That picture you must remember. This is a big opportunity that others don't have. Luo Xiaobai was mainly answering the questions. Han Fei and the others were eating. From capturing exotic creatures to the fire cloud cave, to the piercing electricity zone, the stone forest, and the deep sea jungle, it seemed that everything sounded very strange. When Luo Xiaobai said that she saw the little treeman in the deep sea jungle, Old Bai, who had been silent, suddenly said, don't go to the deep sea jungle again. Han Fei, who was eating and drinking, suddenly heard Old Bai's words and immediately asked, President, is it because of the little treeman? Old Bai snorted. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. Anyway, you've got what you should get. There's nothing else you need in the deep sea jungle. Han Fei continued to ask, President, is there any secret hidden in the deep sea jungle? Everyone pricked up their ears, only to hear Old Bai snort. Bullshit. In the infinite ocean, there are countless jungles more dangerous than the deep sea jungle. What's a 300-kilometer jungle? Have you ever seen a 100,000-kilometer deep sea jungle? 100,000-kilometer deep sea jungle? Han Fei and the others exclaimed. All the ordinary fisheries and level 1 and level 2 fisheries in the Blue Sea town added up were less than 100,000 kilometer. Old man, are you kidding us? Old Bai glanced at them contemptuously. Is a 100,000-kilometer deep sea jungle very big? Let me tell you, in many unknown places, not to mention a 100,000-kilometer deep sea jungle, there are even a 1,000,000-kilometer deep sea jungle. Any creature that walks out of that place can kill you at will. Don't think that you are very strong every day. You are just a group of small fry. It was not that Han Fei and the others didn't believe it, but these things seemed a little too far away from them. Han Fei couldn't help asking, President, then how big is our world? A random deep-sea jungle is 1,000,000 kilometers long? Is there a 1,000,000-kilometer coral reef or something? Old Bai sneered. How big is this world? No one in the entire 1,000-star city knows. Even the high and mighty city lord doesn't know. You ask me? Han Fei muttered to himself, it seems that this planet is really super infinite. Old Bai picked up a piece of squid tentacle and put it into his mouth. I can tell you some rumors. Do you know the boundless sea realm that you talk about every day? That part of the sea really existed. According to the ancient records, the unknown lands outside of the unknown lands already spanned hundreds of millions of miles in the unknown lands. Those who went in basically never came back. Han Fei was stunned. Doesn't the infinite ocean describe this boundless ocean? Old Bai shook his head. That's a sea area. Perhaps there was another boundless sea realm at the other end of the boundless sea realm. When you grow up and visit the unknown place, perhaps you'll have a deeper understanding of it. Han Fei thought, this is really a boundless ocean. For some reason, he felt a little excited. Han Fei asked, Sir, what is the unknown place? We've been to San. Can I go to the unknown place in the level 3 fishery? Old Bai was not afraid of scaring them, so he said casually, yes, but the premise is that you have to learn from S3. He survived in the level 3 fishery. Don't be fooled by the fact that you've swept across the level 2 fishery. Why don't you try going to the level 3 fishery? Why don't you ask Xiao Zhan and Wenren Yu if they can do it? Everyone immediately turned to look at the two. Xiao Zhan said with a silly face, San. The level 3 fishery was full of dangers. There were thousands of dangerous secret realms and many places were sealed. Even hanging fishers and hidden fishers may die, not to mention dangling fishers. Han Fei and the others were shocked. He had to go to the level 3 fishery by teleportation array. It turned out that that place was not on the same level as the level 2 fishery at all. At this time, Han Fei remembered what Ren Tianfei said. The level 3 fishery left him a chance. This guy wouldn't play himself to death, right? Wenren Yu said indifferently, don't think about all that nonsense. Go back and cultivate after you've eaten and properly digest what you've experienced in these 2 months. Except for Han Fei, who is responsible for cooking every day, the others don't come out until they advance. Han Fei, cell phone site. Chapter 226. After dinner, only Xia Xiaochan climbed into her treehouse to sleep. In her words, sleeping was also cultivation, which was much more comfortable than in the cave. His words caused the others to agree with him. So, except for Han Fei, the others all climbed into the treehouse, saying that they were going to meditate on those scenes. Han Fei didn't feel anything about the treehouse now, so he ran into the cave alone. His spiritual perception range was big enough at present. So, what he needed to do now was not this. Han Fei took out the wood spiritual fruit, illuminating the dark cave a little. It doesn't smell fragrant, but it can shine. Let's eat it first. This was not the first time he had eaten a spiritual fruit. Han Fei swallowed the wood spiritual fruit in a few bites like eating a peach. Spiritual energy scattered to his limbs and bones, and what couldn't be absorbed by his body was all stored. The main reason was that Han Fei felt a coolness on the top of his head. Faintly, he felt that his mind had become faster. He felt that he had never been so sober, and his mind was extremely fast. This feeling lasted for more than an hour before it slowly dissipated. When Han Fei opened his eyes again, he felt that his vision was extremely clear, and his hearing and smell were all improved. This feeling was very subtle. His 5 senses had been strengthened, which was definitely helpful in fighting. He also tried to communicate with the weeds outside the cave, but unfortunately, it didn't work at all. He thought to himself that this should be a talent problem. He was not a manipulator, so it was normal that he couldn't feel it. After all, spiritual plant affinity, such a mysterious thing, also varied from person to person. But the remaining round fruit pit was a little cool. Han Fei thought for a while, pierced it with blood spider silk, and hung it around his neck. This thing could calm him down, so he'd better wear it for a long time. Of course, eating the spiritual fruit didn't help Han Fei in any substantial way. After all, he had reached the strength of an intermediate great fishing master and was no longer a fisher. Should I forge a fishing rod? Han Fei was about to take out the dragon head, but on second thought, he had the materials, but he lacked fishing line. At this moment, Han Fei thought of the tendon of the ghost serpent. That thing should be able to be used as a fishing line, right? Although it was just a python tendon, it was much better than blood spider silk. With this in mind, Han Fei decided to get the snake tendon from Wenren Yu in a few days. After sorting out his thoughts, He began to practice the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. He practiced for a day and a night. One Renyu shouted from outside, "Han Fei, time to cook." Han Fei was stunned. "I'm cultivating." One Renyu said, "After that, come out and cook. Others are in seclusion, but you are not." A moment later, Han Fei walked out and looked at One Renyu bitterly. "Master, it's not good to interrupt other people's training, is it?" One Renyu chuckled. "You cultivate? You repeatedly tempered your body, so you could stop at any time, but they couldn't. I said you'll have to cook for a month, so you'll have to do it." Han Fei was speechless. "Master, but I also want to break through." One Renyu chuckled. "Didn't you just break through? Why are you breaking through again?" Han Fei squinted at her. "Master, it's been more than a month since I made the breakthrough. I've experienced a lot during this period of time. Isn't it normal for me to have a breakthrough?" Wen Renyu narrowed her eyes. "Did you become an advanced great fishing master from an intermediate great fishing master in just over a month?" Han Fei quickly waved his hand. "But it was cooking." "Then let's do it. Oh, by the way, master, can you give me the tendon of the ghost serpent?" "Huh? You need it?" Han Fei shrugged. "The quality of the fishing rod is too poor. I want to get a good one." "That's true. The tendon of the ghost serpent is not bad. I can give it to you." When it came to business, One Renyu certainly didn't refuse. After all, this tendon was of no use to her. Thinking about it, One Renyu said, "I can give you the tendon, but I'm going to give the gallbladder to Xiaochan. That thing is not very effective for you. Also, the horn can be used to forge weapons for Lurenquang. Do you have a problem with that?" "Of course not. Why would I have a problem with that?" Han Fei was disdainful. How useful could a snake gallbladder be? Could the horn be better than the blue sea wandering dragon bone? After dinner, Han Fei went to the school library. There were not only the memorial tablets of former students in the library. It also had an outer layer. There were also cultivation techniques in the library, and of course, some ancient books were more useful. He needed to find an ancient book about spiritual weapons. After picking up 3 or 4 books, Han Fei ran back to the cave. Instead of rushing to cultivate, he began to study the knowledge of spiritual weapons. So spirit tools had their own spirits, and they actually needed to seal a living being in the spirit tool? No wonder my blue sea wandering dragon daggers are only extremely sharp but have no spirituality. It turns out that there are no creatures sealed in them. Oh, do spiritual weapons need to be nourished with my own spiritual energy or essence blood? Han Fei was speechless. If he made 10,000 spiritual weapons, he would have to drip a drop of blood on each one. Forget it, I'll just nourish them with spiritual energy. I'll throw them all into Forge the Universe. Anyway, there is still a lot of spiritual spring. After reading this, Han Fei realized why the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were only low-quality spiritual weapons. It seemed that he still had a long way to go on the road of spiritual weapons. When he could make 10,000 spiritual weapons, seal all of them with demonic fish, and nourish them with spiritual energy for a few years, he would be unimaginably powerful. After reading this, Han Fei stopped caring about spiritual energy. Now with his cultivation of the million knife art, he could only control 10 at most, and he still had as many as 40 in his inventory. It was too early to think about sealing spirits. As for the fishing rod, Han Fei carefully sealed the cave and engraved the words, "Today, I have a sudden inspiration. I'll cultivate in seclusion for 3 days. Do not disturb me." Ignoring Wen Renyu's reaction when she saw this line of words, Han Fei took out the demon purification pot in the cave. "Hey, the blue sea wandering dragon rod sounds awesome." Han Fei let the demon purification pot suck the dragon head in and through the snake tendon in. Then he thought, the blue sea wandering dragon bone is so cold. Will it freeze my hand? Should I throw some fire element crystals in? When Han Fei was in the fire cloud cave, he dug hundreds of fire element crystals. Should he use the strongest fire element crystals? Those were too strong and too hot. If they completely suppressed the characteristics of the blue sea wandering dragon bone, it would be a loss. However, The fire element crystals embedded in the wall were not powerful enough. It shouldn't be a problem if he put more of them in. On second thought, Han Fei looked down at the wood spiritual fruit core hanging on his chest and thought to himself, I've been using spiritual energy to cultivate. This thing doesn't seem to be of much use. But the fishing rod is what I carry with me every day. Should I throw it in too? Han Fei wanted to do something big this time. Either he didn't refine it, or he would refine a good one. Just imagine, with a spiritual fishing rod, he would be able to upgrade from mortal level, high quality to a magic weapon. Smelt. Han Fei calmed his mind and stared at Forge the Universe, only to see that the spiritual spring in Forge the Universe, which had long been submerged by the spiritual spring, had dropped a small section, at least 3 centimeters deep. Han Fei took a slight breath. Good heavens, 3 cubic meters of spiritual spring had been lost. How much spiritual energy would it take? He didn't even dare to think about forging a spiritual weapon before. After more than 10 minutes, a fishing rod that was blue, white, and purple in color appeared. Blue Sea Wandering Dragon rod forged with the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon bone, fire element crystals, ghost serpent tendons, and wood spiritual fruit core. The rod is cold and can calm the angler when fishing. Creatures below the exotic class can't distinguish it. Mid-quality spiritual weapon. None note. Due to the limited forging materials, a lot of spiritual energy was consumed, and it was barely cast into a mid-quality spiritual weapon. Han Fei was very satisfied. He immediately dripped a drop of blood on the fishing rod and began to refine it. After a while, the fishing rod was put into his body. Although he didn't know where it went, it was much more convenient than carrying a fishing rod on his back. Unsatisfied, Han Fei wondered if he should take the opportunity to forge another bow. After all, the War Soul art was also one of his trump cards. However, this idea flashed by and was temporarily put aside. I still need a bowstring. It seems that I have to find a chance to go to the Linglong Tower to see if there is any good bowstring. Cell phone site. Chapter 227. Half a month later, Xia Shaochan came out of seclusion, and the whole school was unusually quiet. Not far from the treehouse, the barbecue grill and the fire boiler were still there. In addition to these, there was even a shed here, with the words, "The best kitchen in the world," written on it. Xia Shaochan was surprised. There were more pots and pans, tables and chairs, and knives and forks in the kitchen. At this moment, Xiao Zhan was cleaning the jellyfish, cutting them into threads. Xia Shaochan leaned over. "Teacher, isn't Han Fei cooking? Why did you do it?" Xiao Zhan smiled. "Him. He has been running to the plantation recently. I don't know what he's doing." Han Fei's punishment period hadn't passed yet, so he didn't go into seclusion at all. After building a solid foundation and knowing that there was no more room for improvement, he ran out. Because he had nothing to do, he made vinegar in the school, built a kitchen, and then ran to the plantation. Compared with the plantation in the Heavenly Water Village, the plantation of the Thug Academy was much richer. Many of the spiritual plants that Han Fei didn't know, he knew them all. And although he didn't find rice, he found wheat. For this, he couldn't help but be excited. "Wheat, I didn't find it earlier." He had been to the school plantation before, but the plantation was too big, and he only dug seasonings before. Now, he found wheat in a corner. Just when Xia Shaochan was about to go to the plantation to see what Han Fei was doing, she heard Han Fei's cry from a distance. Teacher, President, we have delicious food tonight. If it's really delicious, it'll definitely eat your tongues." Before he arrived, his voice came. After a while, Xia Shaochan saw Han Fei running over carrying a large fish skin bag. Xia Shaochan, are you out?" Xia Shaochan didn't answer but stared curiously at the bag behind Han Fei. "What are you carrying?" Xiao Zhan also looked curious. "Is there a new dish?" Old Bai came out of nowhere. "Boy, I heard you yelling from a distance. When can you stop yelling like this?" Han Fei chuckled. "President, let me tell you, it's a waste to let you take care of such a large plantation. You don't even know how many treasures there are in it." Old Bai wondered, "Is that so? Are there treasures inside?" Spiritual fruits and spiritual plants are not the only treasures in this world. Every plant has its own significance. Tonight, I'll show you guys what dumplings taste like. Dumplings? Old Bai, Xia Xiaochan, and the others were all confused. They had never heard of it before. Han Fei put down the bag and opened it, only to see the white flower. Old Bai exclaimed in surprise and leaned forward. Do we have this in our plantation? No, I crushed the wheat and made it. Han Fei took out a piece of wheat and said, This is it. Xiao Zhan was speechless. Isn't this weed? Han Fei despised him. Nonsense. How could this be weeds? Even the plantation in the heavenly water village doesn't have it. What is it? What is it? Is it delicious? Lu Renkuang jumped down from the treehouse with a thud. Han Fei was taken aback. Aren't you cultivating? Lu Renkuang scoffed. You roared so loudly. How could I not hear you? Han Fei looked up at the other treehouses. So, did you really just cultivate in the treehouses? Didn't you go to the cave? Lu Renkuang shrugged. I've been meditating for the past half-month. I found it very useful. Han Fei asked, So, you can perceive that we are cooking with your eyes closed. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Han Fei at the same time. Can you perceive the surroundings directly? Huh. Han Fei found that he seemed to have spilled the beans, so he could only bite the bullet and say, Hey, I can perceive a little bit. Xia Xiaochan exclaimed and said, You can feel it too? I thought there was something wrong with my perception. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan looked at Xia Xiaochan again. You can also perceive it? Xia Xiaochan nodded. I can only perceive about 2 meters away. Lu Renkuang was stunned. Really? I didn't perceive it. Phew. Old Bai and Xiao Zhan breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. They were really shocked just now. They thought they could all perceive it. Old Bai nodded. That's something that only dangling fishers can do. Even if you become a peak-level dangling fisher, your perception range can't exceed 100 meters. You may have touched it a little bit in advance. Han Fei chuckled and changed the topic. It shows that we are geniuses. What were we talking about? Dumplings, yes, dumplings are good. Dumplings are delicious. Don't fight for them later. Zhang Xuanyu said lazily, That's too much. I was going to break through to an intermediate fishing master in one go, but you are cooking here. Han Fei looked up. You came out too? Don't make it sound like I didn't do it every day. Everyone was here. Luo Xiaobai and Wenren Yu also came out. Han Fei kneaded the dough and made a fist, which stunned everyone. Lu Renkuang watched carefully from the side. What is this? It was like powder just now. How did it turn into a ball? Han Fei said, It's sticky. This is called kneading dough. Hey, Xia Xiaochan, have you peeled the fresh shrimps? Zhang Xuanyu, cut the cabbage into pieces for me. Kuang Kuang, do you have nothing to do? If you have nothing to do, go peel the garlic and mince the red pepper. Lu Renkuang glanced at Luo Xiaobai. I want to learn this skill. I don't have time. Han Fei chuckled. Okay, then you have to learn it. From now on, you will make all the dumplings. Lu Renkuang rubbed his hands and said, Okay, as long as I know it, I can do it. When Han Fei began to roll the dumpling wrappers, stir the dumpling fillings, and finally made the dumplings with his hands, Lu Renkuang was stunned. So he made a few dumplings with his hands. His strength directly crushed the dumplings and was kicked far away by Han Fei. In the end, Luo Xiaobai personally helped Han Fei make the dumplings. At night, 8 people sat around the table. Han Fei said, Dip it in vinegar. Dumplings must be dipped in vinegar. With some chili in the vinegar, it's delicious. Old Bai nodded. Let me try. When Old Bai took the first bite, he almost raised his eyebrows. When he bit through the thin skin, the shrimp juice flowed, and especially the tenderness of the cabbage, it was very chewy. As soon as he bit down, the fragrance, with a hint of sourness and spiciness, almost made his tongue fall off. Lu Renkuang took the first bite and exclaimed, I'm in love with it. It's boring to eat hot pot often. In the future, let's eat dumplings, which are even more delicious than hot pot. Zhang Xuanyu was not as aggressive as Lu Renkuang. When eating, he could still maintain a handsome posture. However, because he didn't talk much when eating, he ate quickly. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei curiously. Luo Xiaobai seemed to like dumplings more than hot pot, so she didn't say a word. Wenren complained, "Brat, why didn't you make these dumplings earlier? We've been eating hot pot for half a year." Han Fei said helplessly, "But I didn't know there could be wheat here. I haven't even explored the plantation yet." Wenren snorted and turned to look at Xiao Zhan. This guy ate one dumpling at a time, and in the blink of an eye, a plate of dumplings was stuffed into his stomach. She patted him and said, "Eat slowly. You're a bottomless pit. If you eat all the dumplings, we won't have anything to eat." Xiao Zhan was speechless. It was such a big pot, and I only ate a few dozen. How could I eat all of them? Han Fei had a good time. He didn't expect that he could eat dumplings again after a lifetime. He couldn't explain the taste, but he felt very satisfied. After the big pot of dumplings was finished by the 8 of them, Old Bai said leisurely, "Not bad. You can make more in the future. However, you have been in school for a long time, so I'll give you half a month's vacation. Next month, it would be the recruitment season. Before that, you must all come back, understand?" Everyone was taken aback, and then Zhang Xuanyu asked, "Is it a vacation?" Old Bai smiled. "Why don't you want to go?" Zhang Xuanyu quickly shook his head. "We need a few days off. It just so happens that I have something to do too. I have to leave for a while." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "But I'm fine. I'll stay in school to cultivate." Lu Renquang looked around. "Fei Fei, are you leaving?" Han Fei thought for a moment. "Of course." Lu Renquang said helplessly, "Then I'll go too. If you don't, I'll stay in school." Han Fei was helpless. "What does it have to do with me whether you leave or not?" Lu Renquang said, "If I stay, I can learn cooking from you." Han Fei said disdainfully, "Go away. I have to go back to the Heavenly Water Village. I haven't been back for a long time. I want to go back and take a look at my little shabby house. At the same time." Chapter 228. The next morning, Han Fei went to Ligang. Now, Ligang had moved to the Blue Sea town. The village was mainly managed by Li Qing and Li Gan. When Han Fei arrived, Ligang was directing the staff. Han Fei watched from afar and found that Ligang seemed to be struggling to mobilize people. In the town, the fish dragons continued to recruit members. However, there were too many fishing masters in the town, and even great fishing masters came to apply for the position of manager of the Fish Dragon's hot pot restaurant. Although Li Gang had been promoted to a level 8 fisher, he couldn't control the situation any longer. Seeing Han Fei, Li Gang quickly ran over. "Young master, why are you here? Didn't you say that you went to the sea to train?" Han Fei said casually, "I'm back. By the way, did anyone cause trouble at our hot pot restaurant while we were away?" Li Gang paused and revealed an awkward expression. Han Fei frowned. "Is there really someone here?" Li Gang smiled bitterly. "Young master, not really. A great fishing master came to me and asked me to tell him the secret recipe of our hot pot restaurant. But how could I do that? In the blink of an eye, I went to find teacher Xiao Zhan and easily suppressed the situation." Han Fei nodded slightly. "What about the fish dragon card room?" Li Gang smiled awkwardly. Young master. Fish dragon card room." Seeing that Li Gang was hesitating, Han Fei took a deep breath and said, "Is there a problem? Tell me, I'm on vacation for the time being. I'll deal with it when I'm back from vacation." Li Gang scratched his head. "Young master, our printing technology has been stolen." Han Fei's face immediately darkened. "Who did it?" Li Gang stammered, This, just spit it out. "Is there anyone in the Blue Sea town that the Thug Academy can't afford to piss off?" Li Gang, Black River Chamber of Commerce. Black River Chamber of Commerce? Han Fei remembered those people who wanted to take Master Turtle away. Weren't they from the Black River Chamber of Commerce? This Chamber of Commerce is so awesome. Are you trying to rob the fish dragons in broad daylight? Han Fei snorted. "Got it. I'll deal with it after my vacation." "Oh right, if you meet people from the Black River Chamber of Commerce, You don't have to give them face. He told them that the fish dragons were now under the protection of the Thug Academy, and they could do whatever they wanted. When the time comes, I'll make them spit it out with interest. Li Gang immediately straightened his back. Yes, young master. Thinking about it, Han Fei threw a plate ray to Li Gang. This is a rare fish from the level 2 fishery. Eat it at home. It's very useful for fishermen. It should be enough for you to become a fishing master. But you can't eat too much, your physique can't take it. Looking at the 5-meter-long plate ray, Li Gang was shocked. A rare fish in the level 2 fishery? Was it edible? To him, this was simply a peerless contractual spiritual beast. Seeing Li Gang's expression, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. It's nothing. After you finish eating, I'll give you some squid tentacles, so you can improve your strength as soon as possible. If you can't break through, go buy 2 spirit fruits for yourself. You should be quite rich now. Li Gang looked as if he had found a treasure. Yes, young master. I'll eat it secretly at home and work hard to become a fishing master as soon as possible. Okay, I'll go back to the village on vacation. If something happens here, go to the school to find Luo Xiaobai. She's there. Leaving the hot pot restaurant, Han Fei went straight to the departure port. More than 2 hours later, Han Fei controlled the fishing boat and went directly to his cabin. He first went to the cliff cave behind, which had been covered with dust and seemed to have been uninhabited for a long time. But it made sense. The members of the fish dragons didn't know that there was a cliff cave behind the house. Han Fei cleaned up the cave a little and then climbed up the cliff. As soon as he walked to the front of the house, he saw 2 people coming towards him and about to enter the yard. How dare you? How dare you break into the old house of the leader of the fish dragons? Han Fei blinked. Don't you know me? The 2 people were furious. Why should I know you? Boy, get out of here. This is not a place you can come. No, I have to check if anything is missing in the leader's old house. Han Fei smiled. This is my home. Can I come? Your home? Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? The 2 people suddenly shivered and looked at Han Fei in shock. Han Fei said, Okay, you 2 have helped me look after the house. I'll give you 2 squid tentacles, caught in the level 2 fishery. Go home and make soup. By the way, call Li Qing and Li Gan over. Han Fei took out 2 squid tentacles as thick as a thigh and as long as a man out of thin air. The 2 people were frightened. What kind of amazing skill is this? He can make things out of thin air? Sect master? Han Fei casually threw the 2 squid tentacles to the 2 of them. I just came back. Don't tell anyone. Yes. Leader, please wait a moment. I'll call them right away. The 2 of them quickly ran away, their faces filled with excitement. They thought that being assigned to clean Han Fei's old house would be a very boring thing. Who would have thought that they would meet a living leader? As for whether they believed it or not, of course they believed it. He could make things out of thin air, treasures caught in the level 2 fishery. How could they not believe it? Han Fei entered the house and found that it was very clean, so he couldn't help but be very satisfied. He lay down on his little bed. Although he hadn't lived here for long, it was very familiar. After lying down for less than half an hour, he heard the sound of someone running wildly outside the house. Li Qing and Li Gan arrived. Li Qing whispered outside the door, Young master? Han Fei said, Come in. As soon as the 2 heard the sound, they hurriedly pushed the door and entered. Han Fei sat up from the bed and said, Have a seat. Hey, Li Gan has become an intermediate fishing master? Li Gan scratched his head. Psst. It's all thanks to... Leader, Han Fei couldn't stand Li Gan's stutter and was so anxious that he wanted to speak up for him. Han Fei waved his hand and said, Okay, don't flatter me. Li Qing, how is the fish dragons doing recently? Did they bully the villagers? Li Qing said solemnly, Leader, absolutely not. Our fish dragons are now very popular in the Heavenly Water Village, and there is no troublemaker in our gang. Anyone found to be a troublemaker will be kicked out of the gang. Han Fei nodded. Good, well done. Occasionally give benefits to the gang and help the children who have lost their parents. Deal with these things yourself, but no one is allowed to embezzle from us. Yes, young master. Han Fei said with a smile, don't be so formal. By the way, barbecue stalls and hot pot restaurants can be reduced by 30%. After all, the village is not as rich as the town, and everyone's spending power is limited. Now, your young master is not short of money. Li Gan grinned. Han Fei was very much in line with his ideal leader. Li Qing asked tentatively, young master, shall we go back to the gang? Han Fei shook his head. Not today. I'll go back to the plantation and visit the village leader by the way. With that, Han Fei got out of bed and walked out of the door. With a wave of his hand, a plate ray and a crayfish appeared, two huge sea monsters in the cargo compartment. In addition, there were dozens of squid tentacles and two small bottles. This move shocked Li Qing and Li Gan so much that they almost fell to the ground in fright. Han Fei smiled. Don't be nervous. This is a sea-swallowing seashell, a spatial storage method. Thank you for your hard work during this period. These are some rare food I brought back from the level 2 fishery. It should be very helpful for you to eat them. These squid tentacles can be distributed to those who have worked hard. As for these two small bottles, each contains a caddy of spiritual spring, which is worth several months of cultivation. Li Qing, you can take a small amount while you are breaking through to be a fishing master. Li Qing and Li Gan were dumbfounded and kept swallowing their saliva. This is too shocking, too exciting. What the hell is this? Do you take the food from the level 2 fishery as food? And it's rare? Isn't this a reckless waste of God's resources? Han Fei waved his hand. Okay, I won't be back for long. Go do what you need to do. Take these things away. I'll rest here for a while. Don't arrange anyone to come here for the next 2 days. After all, Han Fei was already an intermediate great fishing master. He didn't need to deliberately conceal his aura. Even fishing masters would feel uncomfortable in front of him. Li Qing and Li Gan didn't dare to refuse. They nodded and hurriedly greeted a group of gang members not far away from the door. The fish dragons all greeted Han Fei and then looked at the plate ray and the crayfish dumbfoundedly. How could these things be caught by humans? A group of people carried the crayfish, and a group of people held the plate ray and squid tentacles. They looked back every few steps, trying to remember Han Fei's appearance so that they could brag about it to other gang members in the future. Han Fei put his hands behind his back, stood on the edge of the cliff, smiled slightly, and said to himself, Tisk, not bad, Han Fei. Tiske, not bad, Han Fei. In just a year, you've turned over a new leaf. Well, it's time to synthesize the second spiritual beast. Now that I'm back home, no one can watch me. Cell phone site. Chapter 229. Han Fei ran back to his small cave again. Inside the demon purification pot, 5 exotic creatures were hanging, namely the golden snitch, the human-faced ghost crab, the dragon eel, the soul-attracting jellyfish, and the enormous plate ray. The golden snitch was extremely fast. The human-faced ghost crab could create realistic illusions. The dragon eel was extremely powerful and full of vitality. Its voltage was astonishing. The soul-attracting jellyfish could launch soul attacks. The massive body of the plate ray possessed astonishing suction power. If one were to be sucked into its stomach, it was unlikely that one would be able to escape easily. Each of the 5 exotic creatures could be said to be a contractual spiritual beast that others could only dream of. Now, they were all in the demon purification pot and were about to be absorbed by him. Han Fei hoped that the creature he fused with would be as strong as the dragon eel. After all, so far, except for the powerhouse who killed the blue sea wandering dragon and the little tray ant in the deep sea jungle, Han Fei had not seen a creature stronger than the dragon eel. The demon purification pot. Demons, golden snitch, human-faced ghost crab, dragon eel, soul-attracting jellyfish, giant plate ray. Consumption, 500,000 points of spiritual energy fusion result. Unknown, do you want to fuse? Han Fei was slightly taken aback. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp cost 10,000 points, but now it cost 50 times more? Han Fei took a deep breath. It made sense. After all, 9 tails was refined from a rare creature. Although it was at the legendary level, It took him half a year to find hundreds of rare creatures for it to refine. At this point, the 9 tails had yet to grow. He wondered what the 5 exotic life forms would fuse into. Fuse. The 5 exotic phase shattered in the blink of an eye and were sucked into a black vortex. Unlike last time, this time, a red light gradually appeared. When the red light disappeared, Han Fei was dumbfounded. A huge body filled the entire cliff cave. Han Fei could only see a big head. Right in front of him was an eagle-like beak, and 2 washbasin-sized eyes were blinking. Behind the eyes, there were layers of gills. That was not all. Han Fei also saw 2 huge wings made of gold and red. He couldn't see anything else. This guy was so big that the entire cliff cave was filled with him. It was impossible to see what the back half of his body looked like. Information appeared in his eyes. Contracted spiritual pets. Featherskate. It was an ancient mutated species that belonged to the flying fish clan. It had a pair of wings and legs that were as sharp as blades that could cut through gold and stone. The feather god Ray could fly in the sky and dive into the sea at an incredible speed. Its head was as hard as a mountain, and it was good at ramming. When it matured into its complete form, it could gather the power of heavenly lightning. Hiss! Han Fei was dumbfounded. This is a bit too strong. Was this a bird or a fish? It even had wings and feet? If he possessed this body, wouldn't he be able to fly? More importantly, with such a big head, you're telling me it's a child? Yeah. The feather god Ray leaned its big head over and seemed very happy. It squeaked and wanted to rub its head against Han Fei. Han Fei quickly grabbed its beak, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Its head was too big for him to hold. Can you become smaller? The feather god Ray tilted his head and looked at Han Fei as if he didn't understand. Han Fei thought for a moment and asked, "Can you become smaller?" The feather god Ray seemed to understand this time. Its huge body suddenly began to shrink, shrinking to more than 2 meters long. Only then did Han Fei see the full appearance of this guy. It was gold and red all over, with webbed claws and a scarlet dorsal fin on its back, which was red and shiny like a ruby. Han Fei said, "Smaller, smaller." The feather god Ray shrank again, this time to more than 1 meter long, but when it spread its wings, it immediately became more than 3 meters wide. It flapped its wings and pounced on Han Fei. Han Fei quickly pushed its head away and mumbled, "Are you hungry? You must be hungry. You just came out and didn't eat." So Han Fei took out a squid tentacle more than 2 meters long and threw it to the feather god Ray. The feather god Ray opened its mouth and swallowed half of it. Then it raised its head and swallowed the tentacle as thick as a thigh. After eating it, the feather god Ray blinked and tilted its head at Han Fei. Han Fei asked, "You want more?" "Yes, yes, I have plenty of squid tentacles." Han Fei threw nearly 20 squid tentacles in a row and finally fed the feather god Ray. Han Fei looked up and down at this guy, pulling its wings from time to time and tapping the golden bones on the edge of its wings with the back of a knife. With just a light touch, the sound of metal and stone colliding was heard. Han Fei asked, "You are an ancient mutant anyway. I should give you a name. What should I call you? Little Red?" No, that's Li Gang's wife. You can't call her that." "Little Feather?" "No, it sounds like a girl's name." "Little Gold?" Han Fei muttered and finally shook his head. "Forget it. I'll call you Little Gold." Han Fei was very satisfied that Little Gold didn't have the bad habit of hitting the floor like the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. For now, Little Gold was very obedient. Except for its big appetite, it seemed to have no shortcomings. Han Fei thought of something and shouted in a low voice, "Attach." In an instant, Little Gold turned into a golden red stream of light and attached to Han Fei. Han Fei felt that his strength had increased greatly, and he could clearly feel that his head was a little hard. He subconsciously slapped his forehead, which resulted in a dang sound. "Oh fuck! Have I become an ironhead fish?" Before Han Fei could be surprised, he felt a tingling on his back, and a pair of golden red wings really appeared, and they were not illusory at all but real. Han Fei was so excited that he jumped up. But he didn't realize that Little Gold was best at speed. With such a jump, His head hit the rock wall on the top of the cave with a thud. Han Fei landed and rubbed his head. No, this cave was too small. He climbed directly to the cliff and looked around. Seeing that there was no one, he spread his wings and tried to fly. Feeling that his feet were off the ground, Han Fei couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. So, he could fly just like that? It's so cool. Han Fei flew to the edge of the cliff. He flew off the cliff and flew very slowly. He tried to flap his wings quickly, but as soon as the speed increased, the stability became worse. Han Fei tilted to one side and fell directly down the cliff. Fuck! Han Fei quickly adjusted his posture and then carefully grabbed the cliff of the floating island. Phew! Flying turns out to be such a cool experience. Han Fei let go of the floating stone on the cliff and tried to fly again. After experimenting for a full hour, he flew around the area with a radius of 30 or 40 kilometers. He flew horizontally, up and down, flying up and down, and he couldn't close his mouth. Han Fei felt it, felt nature, and observed the state of flying from countless angles in the air. Even during the flight, when he closed his eyes to feel all this, a lot of feelings emerged in an instant, and he subconsciously wanted to shout. More than an hour later, it was almost evening, and Han Fei finally flew back to his hut stealthily. Deactivate. Little gold flashed red and disappeared into Han Fei's body. Han Fei grinned. Although his hair was messy, it felt great. Others could only fly when they were hanging fishers or hidden fishers. He was only a great fishing master, but he could already fly. He just didn't know how big the gap was between the speed of little gold and the snow-white wings behind a hidden fisher. However, Han Fei calmed down immediately. Little gold was very strong, there was no doubt about this. But the problem was that the nine-tailed mantis shrimp could be said to be a mutant mantis shrimp. Then, if little gold was seen by others, what should he say? No one would believe it if he said it was an exotic creature. And among the legendary creatures, if this thing were to be found out, who knew how many people would covet it? Forget it, I can't expose little gold for the time being. Cell phone website. Chapter 230. Heavenly Water Village Plantation. Old Jiang was fiddling with his vinegar tank. There was a large plate of little white shrimps on the table at this moment, and the aroma of wine filled the air. Slurp. Pooey. Old Jiang took a bite and felt that it tasted good enough. Carrying the wine jar, he walked to the table and was about to start drinking. I'm back. Far away, before old Jiang stuffed a little white shrimp into his mouth, he heard Han Fei's voice from a long distance away. This stinking brat really knows how to pick the right time. Han Fei trotted into the plantation and saw that old Jiang was picking up a shrimp with his chopsticks. He was lost for words. Grandpa, why are you still eating drunken shrimp? Old Jiang glanced at Han Fei, stuffed the little white shrimp into his mouth with chopsticks, spat out the shrimp shell, and said, Yo, who is this? You actually came back alive. Han Fei, what do you mean? What did he mean by coming back alive? So when I went, you thought I would die, didn't you? Han Fei chuckled. Grandpa, go ahead. Come on, eat your fill now. I'll make 2 dishes for Sister Qin later. You can have the drunken prawns. Old Jiang immediately put his chopsticks on the table when he heard that there were more dishes. Do you think I should eat just because you asked me to? But I refuse to eat. But you brat, have you been harming the plantation in the 4th Academy every day? I knew that the fish dragons must be up to no good in the Blue Sea town. Han Fei moved a stool and sat opposite old Jiang. Hey Grandpa, you are very familiar with old Bai, aren't you? Were you from the Thug Academy before? Old Jiang snorted. None of your business. I am a farmer. Han Fei said disdainfully, Are you kidding me? Old Bai is obviously very familiar with you. How strong are you? Does he have the strength of a hidden fisher? Or even more? Old Jiang asked, Are you crazy? If I had that kind of strength, why would I come to this broken place? Hurry up and go cook. Han Fei blinked and chuckled. He didn't believe it. This old man was really good at pretending. Let's see how long he could keep up the act. However, it was good to retire in the Heavenly Water Village. Old Bai retired in the Blue Sea town, and old Jiang retired in the heavenly water village. There was no difference. Han Fei fished out a bag of flour from his sea-swallowing seashell, which made old Jiang's eyelids twitch, a little surprised by Han Fei. How did this kid improve so quickly? When he left, he barely became a great fishing master, but now he was at the peak of the intermediate level. More importantly, this kid even got a sea-swallowing seashell? After that, the old man moved closer. What is this white thing? Flour. I brought you some seeds. I've tried it before. It grows fast, and it ripens in half a month after watering it with spiritual energy. Old Jiang asked, "This thing is delicious? Let me try it." After that, old Jiang grabbed a handful of flour, licked it, and frowned. Pooh! What the hell is this? There's no taste at all. How is it delicious? Han Fei was lost for words. Why are you panicking? What kind of person eats flour? You just watch from the side. I'll show you once. If I'm not here, you can make it yourself. Don't blame me if you can't learn it. In the evening, the night wind was cool and the sky was full of stars. When Jiang Qin returned home from work, she saw an old man and a young man sitting around the table, murmuring something. Old Jiang craned his neck. How did you knead it? Han Fei raised the dumpling in his hand. Just like this, I gently knead it with 2 fingers and it's done. Old Jiang wondered, can I eat it just by kneading it? I can eat it in 1 bite, right? Han Fei nodded. You can eat one in 2 bites. Han Fei. Hearing Jiang Qin's voice, Han Fei turned around and said with a smile, Sister Qin, you're back? Jiang Qin said lightly, when did you come back? I just came back. Now that I'm back, I'll let you try my new cooking. Huh? Are you already at the peak of the intermediate level? Han Fei grinned. When I left, I was already a great fishing master, wasn't I? The Thug Academy is full of monsters, and one of them is already an advanced great fishing master. Jiang Qin asked, how many days? Han Fei replied, half a month. I'm afraid nothing good will happen after half a month. Jiang Qin nodded and looked at the dumplings on the table. New dishes? Han Fei clapped his hands. Hey, Sister Qin, I'll let you taste them. The dumplings are in the pot. After half an hour, there was a large plate in front of each of the 3 people on the table, with a bowl of dumplings in the middle. Jiang Qin smiled. Can you finish it? Han Fei pushed the vinegar plate in front of the 2 of them. Have a taste? Jiang Qin picked up a hot dumpling, dipped it in vinegar, and took a small bite. When the shrimp juice flowed out, Jiang Qin's eyes lit up. The old man had already eaten a dumpling, and his stern face relaxed. He picked up the dumpling and looked left and right. I didn't know. How can that white thing taste so good when it's cooked? Han Fei smiled. That's because no one has ever studied this. The 3 of them didn't finish the dumplings until their stomachs were round. After dinner, after chatting for a while, Han Fei was called to the training ground in the plantation by Jiang Qin. Han Fei scratched his head. Sister Qin, I just came back. Let's not fight. Jiang Qin looked indifferent. Is this what the 4th Academy teaches you? You don't even want to fight? Han Fei said faintly, let's fight. I'm about to throw up from the beating. I finally came back to have a rest. Jiang Qin snorted, raised her hand, and punched. Her spiritual energy was like a dragon, directly shooting into the void. Han Fei was slightly stunned. Although the attack was gorgeous, he didn't panic at all. He had learned a lot from the level 2 fishery, so he wouldn't be scared. Han Fei also wrapped his fist in spiritual energy and punched out, smashing the punch. Then the 2 of them began to use their weapons. The corners of Jiang Qin's mouth turned up. Now that Han Fei had become an intermediate fishing master, she could use her strength a little more. She stomped her feet, spiritual energy gushed out of her arms, and in the blink of an eye, she punched out 100 times. At the same time, she leaned forward and rushed at Han Fei like a cannonball. Million knife art, 7-star chain. Han Fei waved his hand and 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers burst out in an instant, spinning in the air into a knife shadow top, colliding with the fist shadow. At the same time, he instantly attached himself to Jiang Qin, and the 7 chains behind him shot out from different angles, binding Jiang Qin. Boom, boom, boom. Old Jiang wasn't interested in watching the two of them fight. But before he sat down, a violent roar broke out from the depths of the plantation. Dust was flying and spiritual plants were flying everywhere. When old Jiang came here, he saw Han Fei controlling the knives in the air, holding them with both hands, and his body was as flexible as a monkey. The ground was already full of potholes, and the 100-meter training ground had completely turned into ruins. At this moment, Jiang Qin was leaping in the air, and Han Fei's double knives were spinning in the air, but they were knocked away by Jiang Qin every time. When they returned to Han Fei's hands, they cut through the void again, filling the sky with shadows. "Stuff, is this a place for you to fight? Don't make trouble for me as soon as you come back. Plow the land and pull up the weeds for me tomorrow." Han Fei's body flashed, and he jumped to an open space, saying helplessly, "Grandpa, I didn't want to fight you. Sister Qin forced me to do this." Old Jiang said angrily, "I don't care. If I don't punish you, my granddaughter?" Han Fei? Jiang Qin also stopped at this moment, looked at Han Fei for a while, and said, "Why do I find that your moves are more and more like sneak attacks? You've turned a soul warrior's move into a hunter's." Han Fei blinked his eyes. "Really? I don't think so." Jiang Qin asked, "Where did this knife come from? A low-quality spiritual weapon?" "No, the material is spiritual, but it can't exert its power, so it's at most an ultra-quality magic weapon." Han Fei smacked his lips. "I got it from a treasure hunt in the level 2 fishery. I haven't sealed any creatures in it yet. Sister Qin, do you know how to seal spirits?" "No," Jiang Qin said lightly. "Your body has become a lot stronger, and your spiritual power seems to have soared, but your fighting style is not good. You need to practice rod techniques more." Han Fei asked, "Do I need to?" Jiang Qin didn't look back. "You are a soul warrior." Han Fei shouted, "But I'm also a spirit gatherer. Besides, soul warriors could also use sabers. Why do you use a rod? It looks so low class." Jiang Qin stopped and sneered. "Brute force is the best. Although your knife techniques are good, you can't control spiritual weapons yet. Wait until you can control them." Before leaving, Jiang Qin said, "Tomorrow, go and see if there are any seedlings who can enter the 4th Academy." Cell phone site. Chapter 231. Han Fei vaguely guessed that Jiang Qin must have graduated from the Thug Academy, which was why she missed the Thug Academy so much. Old Jiang was probably from the Thug Academy as well. The next day, the awakening began. Han Fei had heard that the casualty rate of this fishing trial was 50% lower than last year's. It was because Han Fei won the resource competition that the casualty rate was so low. But the first place only got a little more than 4,000 points. Han Fei guessed that maybe the top few could be considered. Heavenly Water Village, Spirit Awakening Pool. When Han Fei arrived, he sneaked into the crowd. The top 10 students had entered the pool and were awakening their spiritual beasts. After a while, there was a sudden movement at the bottom of the pool. The village leader shouted excitedly, "Zhang Ming, awakened the swift squid spiritual beast." Han Fei didn't care. The so-called swift squid was a rare squid in the level 1 fishery. He used to think it was good, but now, he didn't feel anything at all. Chen Yi awakened the big meat turtle. Zhang Kong awakened the tentacle lobster. Until the last person, a lot of plants suddenly grew in the pool. Han Fei's eyes lit up. "Spirit entangling grass?" The village leader also said excitedly, "Suya awakened the spirit entangling grass, an alien, a real alien." The village leader stood under the statue and boasted, and Han Fei just nodded slightly. Since she had awakened the spirit entangling grass, her future development path had basically been determined. Was there any other choice except for manipulators? After Su Ye came out of the pool, she raised her hand and waved to the audience, but there was no smile on her face. Han Fei just observed secretly, thinking, "I'll find a chance to ask the village leader what Su Ye's talent is. What's her combat power? What's her personality?" After all, there were many manipulators in this world, but only Luo Xiaobai could enter the Thug Academy. Was Luo Xiaobai strong? Of course, there was no doubt about it. In the level 2 fishery, Luo Xiaobai contributed a lot. Although her combat power was not as good as the other 4, she was not much weaker. Besides, she could control, fight, defend, and avoid danger. In general, she was quite strong. Among the last batch of 100 people, there was an exotic armored turtle, just like Wang Baiyu. However, in Han Fei's opinion, it was too low. In the eyes of others, it was an anomaly, but in his eyes, it was just a rare spiritual beast, not outstanding. Next, almost 3,000 people entered the pool at the same time. Because there was an unusually abundant supply of spirit awakening fluid this year, the village leader was also confident. But when he saw ordinary spiritual beasts appear one after another, he was almost numb to them. Occasionally, he would awaken a swordfish and feel that it was awesome. Finally, among these people, there was an exception. It was a young man who had awakened a mutated arachnidocrab. In addition, almost half of them were spiritual beasts from ordinary fisheries. Han Fei was just a bystander. No matter how the people around him shouted, he kept his head down and didn't make a sound. When the innate spiritual awakening was about to end, he quietly left and ran to the village head's house. Lying down on a chair in the yard, he casually took out 2 big strawberries and ate them. About an hour later, the village chief returned home with 3 youths in tow. The village leader said, "Su Ya, only 1 in 1,000 spiritual plants can be awakened. You can't waste your talent in vain. This time, I'll apply for a place in the first academy for you. Yang Qi, your exotic arachnidocrab is very rare and even above the spirit entangling grass in terms of grade. You are the only one who stands out among 1,000 people. Although your spiritual heritage is not obvious, I can get you to study in the second academy." As for Zhaoan, Wang Baiyu awakened an armored turtle last year and now he is doing well in the first academy. I'll try to get you there so that we can take care of each other. As the village leader was talking, he suddenly stopped and saw a person lying on his favorite recliner, nibbling on a strawberry while looking at him. "Wow, you're back?" Han Fei lazily got up from the recliner and said with a smile, "Grandpa Leader, long time no see." The village leader's face changed many times. He had heard of Han Fei's deeds, but he didn't even dare to think about it. At that time, the 4th Academy, which he thought was the worst, had 5 peerless geniuses. Now, who doesn't know about this? Who doesn't know about it? He won 100 consecutive victories in the Blue Sea Arena, defeated the top 100 students of the 3 academies in the Blue Sea Town, and defeated an advanced great fishing master. Every one of them had deeply shocked him. So, when he saw Han Fei, the village leader's face suddenly changed. This boy, a mid-quality spiritual heritage, how could a middle-grade spirit vein grow to such an extent? A few months ago, he had been to the Blue Sea Town and the 4th Academy to find Han Fei. However, the old man from the 4th Academy said that Han Fei had gone to the level 2 fishery to gain experience. At that time, the village leader was shocked. He went to the level 2 fishery to gain experience? How long had it been since Han Fei went to the 4th Academy? The teachers of the other 3 academies took their students to gain experience in the level 1 fishery, but he went to the level 2 fishery, next to the village leader. Su Ya and the other 2 looked at Han Fei curiously. Zhaoan suddenly said, "Are you the champion of last year's fishing trial, Han Fei?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Yes." "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" The other 2 didn't speak, but they were slightly curious about last year's champion. The village leader was a little surprised and asked, "When did you come back? Did you go to see the awakened spiritual beast today?" Han Fei nodded lazily and handed a strawberry to the village leader. "I watched them for a while. Are the 3 most talented this time?" The village leader seemed to think of something. Is Han Fei here to look for talents? This was definitely a shocking piece of news. The 4th Academy had just debuted and almost swept the other 3 academies. This strength must not be underestimated. The village leader quickly said, "Yes, the spiritual beasts of the 3 of them are the best this year. Although not as frequent as last year, they are still rare. Look at Su Ya, She awakened the spirit entangling grass. Zhaoan awakened the armored turtle. Yang Qi awakened the mutant spider crab. Zhaoan didn't seem to have a good impression of Han Fei and couldn't help saying, "Grandpa leader, why are you telling him this?" The village leader glared at him and then turned to look at Han Fei. "Do you think any of them can enter the 4th Academy?" The 4th Academy? The 3 teenagers were stunned. Did Han Fei come here to poach them to the 4th Academy? Zhaoan was the first to respond. "Grandpa leader, I want to go to the 1st Academy." The other 2 still didn't speak, but they seemed a little disgusted. "We can go to a better school. Why do we want to go to the 4th Academy? What's so good about the 4th Academy?" The village leader shouted in a low voice, "Shut up." Han Fei smiled and ignored Zhaoan, but asked lazily, "Grandpa leader, I just came here to have a look. What level are their spiritual heritages?" The village leader immediately pointed to Suya and said, "Suya is level 4, low quality, no worse than Xia Wushuang. Zhaoan is level 3, high quality. Although Yang Qi's spiritual heritage is a bit low, he is also level 2, high quality." Han Fei nodded slightly. "What about their strength?" "Suya is level 8, and Zhaoan and Yang Qi are both level 7 fishers." Han Fei was a little surprised. Level 2, high quality, and a level 7 fisher? Not bad. He should have had some fortuitous encounters. Han Fei asked, "Grandpa leader, do you mind if I test them?" The village chief instantly grinned and said, "Test, do whatever you want." The village leader raised his eyelids. He didn't dislike the 4th Academy for a long time. Besides, he had heard from He Xiaoyu that Han Fei was already a great fishing master. Now Han Fei was standing in front of him, and he could feel Han Fei's vigorous qi and blood. He was afraid that Han Fei was not as simple as a junior great fishing master but at least an intermediate one. Were the other 3 academies as fast as him? Suya frowned. "Test?" Zhaoan took a step back. "No, I want to go to the 1st Academy." As for Yang Qi, he couldn't go to the 1st Academy, so it didn't matter. Han Fei smiled faintly. "Okay, Zhaoan, right? You don't have to take the test, but don't affect my assessment of the other 2. The village chief sighed lightly. Why does this Zhaoan not have any eyesight? If the 4th Academy was ordinary, why would I allow Han Fei to assess you? Cell phone website. Chapter 232. Han Fei's assessment was very simple, so simple that the village leader was surprised. "I'll suppress my realm to that of a level 8 fisher. Just attack me with your full strength." Suya was stunned. In terms of age, Han Fei was only 1 year older than them. "You're talking so arrogantly, and you're even suppressing your cultivation?" The 3 of them couldn't help but feel a little competitive. "You're number 1, so how are we any worse than you?" The village chief frowned. "Isn't it too high? You've already learned combat skills. Why don't you go with the 7th level?" Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Village leader, you're too protective of your son." "You said it's level 7, so it's level 7. A moment later, Suya took the initiative to attack. Suppressing himself to fight a level 7 fisher? Had he been defeated before? Then Suya raised her rod and smashed it at Han Fei with her most powerful spiritual energy explosion. But to her surprise, Han Fei just slightly leaned to one side, stretched out a hand, and slapped Suya's stick to the ground with spiritual energy surging in his hand. This scene caused Zhaoan and Yang Qi to be dumbstruck. This guy is so powerful? He was only a level 7 fisher, but he still dared to fight the rod with his bare hands? Han Fei smiled. "Hey little girl, don't use up your spiritual energy too early." At that moment, Suya narrowed her eyes and stabbed with her staff. Han Fei tilted his body slightly and easily dodged it. Suya tried her best, but she couldn't even touch Han Fei's clothes. The rod in his hand was easily snatched away by Han Fei and thrown aside casually. Fuse. The spirit-entangled grasses merged, and a large area of spirit-entangled grasses surrounded Han Fei. Han Fei shook his head and said, "You've just awakened and don't know how to use the spirit entanglement grass yet. It's useless for me." Han Fei drew out a knife and with a casual slash, a large number of spirit-entangled grasses were broken. In the end, Su-ya sat on the ground with a face full of sweat and a face full of disbelief. The village leader sighed slightly. After all, he had become a great fishing master. Han Fei had seen much more scenes than Su-ya. Even if his realm was suppressed to level 7, he was still too powerful. Then he hooked his finger at Yang Qi. Yang Qi understood and immediately charged forward. He didn't consider whether to fuse with a spiritual beast or not. Su-ya had already tried it and it didn't work at all. He might as well use all of his spiritual energy to have a good fight. Yang Qi fought fiercely and quite fiercely. Many times, he tried to fight Han Fei to the death, but Han Fei easily dodged his attacks. After a while, Yang Qi also sat on the ground, his spiritual energy empty. Village chief hurriedly said, "How is it? Can you do it?" Han Fei pointed casually, and 2 pillars of spiritual energy poured into the bodies of Su-ya and Yang Qi. Under the shocked gazes of the others, he shook his head slightly and said, "Unqualified." Village chief's eyes dimmed and he sighed, "Forget it, if you don't qualify, then so be it. Just take it that you gave them some pointers." However, Han Fei said, "Next month is the enrollment season. By then, they could go to the 4th Academy for the assessment again after familiarizing themselves with their spiritual beasts and spiritual plants. Of course, it wouldn't do if the situation remained the same. Also, Yang Qi, his fighting style is ferocious. I don't recommend Grandpa Village Chief to send him to the 3 big academies. If he can quickly become a fishing master and gain experience in the level 1 fishery for a year, maybe he can try the assessment of the 4th Academy next year." The village leader's eyes lit up. "Really?" Han Fei nodded. "Why would I lie to you? But even so, I personally think the probability of him passing the assessment is only 20% or 30% at most. It's up to you." Su-ya and Yang Qi were all stunned. What the hell? Is the 4th Academy so arrogant? How could he directly deny them? They are the heavenly talents of the Heavenly Water Village this year. Han Fei was pulled to the side by the village leader. "Han Fei, tell me honestly, how good is the 4th Academy?" Han Fei shrugged. "It's definitely better than the 3 big academies. Back then, the 4th Academy once swept the 36 towns and defeated all the heavenly talents of the 1,000-star city. What do you think?" "Wow!" The village leader took a breath. "Sweeping the 36 towns and defeated the 1,000-star city? Is it so exaggerated?" Han Fei smiled. "Grandpa Village Chief, I'm leaving. I'm just here to have a look. Take the suitable ones with you. If not, just forget it." Han Fei was about to leave. The village leader hurriedly shouted, "Wait, what kind of senior are you? Don't you give your junior brothers and sisters a gift? The most powerful one among them is only a level 8 fisher. How can they pass your assessment next month?" Han Fei was speechless. "You're still so protective of your juniors." Han Fei looked back. "Okay, I'll listen to you." Then Han Fei waved his hand and 2 plate rays 5 or 6 meters long were thrown to the ground. Han Fei smiled. "Here, plate rays caught in the level 2 fishery, rare creatures close to level 30. They should be enough for them to become fishing masters." The village leader was stunned. What did Han Fei just do? He made things out of thin air. Is it a sea-swallowing seashell? At that time, the village leader gasped. What on earth did Han Fei experience in the 4th Academy? He even has a sea-swallowing seashell? Wait. Suddenly, the village leader's face changed drastically. Rare creatures close to level 30? How the hell did you catch them for food? The village leader shouted at Han Fei, who was slipping away. "You wastrel!" Han Fei left, leaving behind the angry village leader and the 3 dumbfounded teenagers. It took Su-ya a long time to come back to herself and asked, "Grandpa Leader, Senior Han Fei," the village leader sighed. "The 4th Academy is not what you think. It is an elite school. So far, only 5 people have joined this academy. However, these 5 people have suppressed the heavenly talents of the 3 academies. And Han Fei is now one of these 5 people. You can imagine it yourself." Su-ya and the other 2 were shocked. "Village leader, Are you kidding us? 5 people suppressed the heavenly talents of the 3 academies? Gulp. Yang Qi asked hesitantly, Village leader, what is Senior Han Fei's realm now? The village leader didn't hide it. He is at least an intermediate great fishing master. But to suppress the heavenly talents of the 3 academies, I'm afraid his real strength has already reached the level of an advanced great fishing master or even a peak-level great fishing master. Wow! The 3 teenagers felt as if thunder had exploded in their minds. A peak-level great fishing master? He was only 13 years old. He was only 1 year older than them. They were still fishers, but Han Fei already had the combat power of a peak-level great fishing master? What a dreadful thing this was. Zhaoan was a little regretful at this moment. Why hadn't he heard of the 4th academy? He thought the Blue Sea Academy was ranked first, so it must be the first. But the 4th academy was way too powerful. The village leader looked at Zhaoan and said, It's not easy to get in. Didn't you see that he didn't like any of them? Go to the 1st academy. Maybe there will be a chance for you. Then the village leader looked at Suya and Yang Qi. These 2 fish. You can't finish them in half a month. You can give some to Zhaoan. Of course, it's up to you. At this moment he could only be thick-skinned. Since Han Fei didn't give them to Zhaoan, it meant that he didn't want to. But no matter whether Zhaoan was good or bad, as the village leader, he had to consider the children, so he could only say this. Suya and Yang Qi didn't speak, but in their hearts, they thought, why should I give it to him? I won't give it to him. Suddenly Yang Qi got up and said, Village leader, I want to stay in the village. The village leader was taken aback, and after a while, he nodded slightly. Okay, although your spiritual beast is very strong, it's not very talented. At the beginning, Han Fei also stayed in the village and couldn't be driven away. Thinking of this scene, the village leader suddenly smiled. Wasn't it like this? This little guy wiped out the tigers, started the fish dragons, and didn't forget to farm. Now thinking about it, how long had he been in the town? Less than half a year had passed. His growth speed was really terrifying. But Zhaoan stared at the 2 plate rays on the ground, his eyes red and jealous. If he had kept silent just now, would he have one now? Han Fei left. He didn't want to open the back door for them. Even if he opened the back door and brought his juniors to the Thug Academy. According to Luo Xiaobai's cold personality, she would have killed them first. Forget it, I just gave them 2 fish. It shouldn't be considered opening the back door, right? Plantation. It took Han Fei a whole day to get rid of the weeds and plant the wheat. At this moment, Han Fei also made a recliner, lying on it and eating strawberries. Grandpa, you take care of the wheat yourself. When it's ripe, take out the seeds and pat them into flour. You can make your own dumplings in the future. Old Jiang snorted. My granddaughter will make them. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Look at how lazy you are. When Jiang Qin came back, the food was ready. Jiang Qin asked, How is it? Is there anyone suitable? Han Fei shook his head. No. Jiang Qin grunted and didn't care. She knew the Thug Academy too well. If everyone could go there, it would be too cheap. Jiang Qin changed the topic and said, Go out with me tomorrow. At the same time. Chapter 233. When he went out with Jiang Qin, old Jiang lay on the recliner, glanced at Han Fei, and didn't say much. However, Han Fei felt that something was wrong. Han Fei wondered, Sister Qin, where are we going? Jiang Qin said calmly, A few days ago, someone was fishing in an ordinary fishery and accidentally caught a particularly large green turtle in the sea. This is a very normal thing. However, the stone that the green turtle was wearing had broken array carvings on it. I went to investigate and found that the creatures in that place were relatively large, and I also caught many green turtles with broken arrays on them. The first thing that came to Han Fei's mind was the boat-burying pit. The fish in the boat-burying pit were relatively large, but that was because there was a spiritual spring there before, but now it was gone. Han Fei asked in surprise, Sister Qin, then what else did you find? Jiang Qin said, I found a seal. Han Fei gasped. Was it the stone tablet left by Ren Tianfen? Han Fei asked carefully, What seal? You'll know when you get there. I tried, but I couldn't get in. Maybe I'm too strong. If I break the seal by force, I will directly destroy that small secret realm. Han Fei blinked. Can I get in? Jiang Qin shook her head slightly. I don't know. I think so. Han Fei was surprised. Do you have a clue about the person you're looking for? Will he be in that seal? Jiang Qin shook her head slightly. No, this seal is a bit weak. He won't be trapped here. Han Fei blinked. She was right. If it was the boat-burying pit, Ren Tianfen was determined to overturn the Thousand-Star City alone. If it was the boat-burying pit, the seal would not be weak. Han Fei asked, then why are we still looking for him? Jiang Qin sighed slightly. It's impossible to trap him in this place, but there may be some clues. There must be a reason why he appeared in the Heavenly Water Village. Now we're going to find this reason. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Sister Qin, who the hell is he? Are you his boyfriend? Smack. Jiang Qin rolled her eyes at Han Fei. You have too many questions. Hey, Sister Qin, wait a minute. What if there is a creature inside that can kill a great fishing master? Jiang Qin shook her head. I caught a level 40 creature and found that I couldn't throw it in. Then, I caught a level 36 bone fish and threw it in. This means that this seal allows people below dangling fishers to enter. Han Fei was amused. But I'm only an intermediate great fishing master. Jiang Qin looked at Han Fei seriously. I know you've been to many dangerous places in the level 2 fishery. This place can't be more terrible than those places. Trust me. How did you know? Jiang Qin blinked at Han Fei. Han Fei was lost for words. Forget it, I won't ask anymore. She was sad. There were no more secrets. She made it seem like she knew everything. Even though he worked at the departure port every day, he was still well informed about all kinds of news. However, Han Fei was not going to fight a battle that he was not confident of winning. If it was really a boat-burying pit, he could go in, break through to an advanced great fishing master, and then say that there was a little spiritual spring in it. If it weren't for the boat-burying pit, the first thing he would do after entering was to become an advanced great fishing master, so as to ensure his invincibility. Having figured this out, Han Fei wasn't afraid anymore. I still have means to save my life. If I can't, I can use Forge the Universe first. The fishing boat went out to sea. Seeing that it was not the direction of the boat-burying pit, Han Fei was slightly relieved. But as the fishing boat sailed further, Han Fei felt something was wrong. Why does this place feel a bit familiar? Suddenly, Han Fei remembered. Isn't this the place to the spirit-absorbing jellyfish area? Before the tigers were destroyed, Li Ju obtained the tiger-headed fish from the spirit-absorbing jellyfish area. At that time, Han Fei felt that rare spiritual fish were already very awesome. Since the tiger-headed fish had been taken away by Li Ju, why should he go there? But now he came back. Yes, it's just a rare spiritual fish. There are many in the level 1 fishery and many in the level 2 fishery. Why do I think the tiger-headed fish is a treasure in ordinary fisheries? Jiang Qin looked at Han Fei and asked, Huh? Do you know this place? Han Fei nodded. The spirit-absorbing jellyfish area. Did Li Ju get the tiger-headed fish here? Jiang Qin nodded. Yes. It's not normal for rare spiritual fish to appear in ordinary fisheries. I think Li Ju just thought he was lucky. However, even if he found that forbidden area, he couldn't get out with his fishing master level ability. Han Fei nodded. According to Jiang Qin, it was true. At that time, he was just a fisherman. Even if he found that place, he wouldn't be able to get out. Here it is. Let's go into the water. After the fishing boat stopped, Jiang Qin said to Han Fei and then jumped into the water. Han Fei followed. The two of them were like two big fish, quickly shuttling among the jellyfish. Even if some jellyfish tried to stick to them, they were all shattered by Jiang Qin's spiritual energy. The two moved very fast and reached the bottom of the sea in just a few seconds. The bottom of the sea looked very ordinary. There were some bare rocks and not many corals. There were only some dead white coral clumps. On the bottom of the sea, a group of Oncomelania snails jumped over, and some jumped over to stab Han Fei and Jiang Qin. However, Jiang Qin waved her hand and a wave directly sent them flying. Han Fei looked around. Sister Qin, where are we? Jiang Qin slowly swam to the side. A few minutes later, the two of them appeared in a huge place covered with seaweed. Under the seaweed, rocks were shattered. Among the rocks, sea green vines occasionally grew out from under the rocks. Jiang Qin said via voice transmission, sea green vines, a common underwater spiritual plant in ordinary fisheries. They are not precious. Jiang Qin pushed aside a green vine leaf, and the sea green vines next to it rushed towards her frantically, trying to entangle her. However, as soon as Jiang Qin stomped her foot, the waves rolled and these sea green vines shrank into a ball. Han Fei followed her closely. After walking for about 200 meters, Han Fei saw an open space with a diameter of more than 5 meters, which seemed to have been cleaned by someone. It must be Jiang Qin's doing. Han Fei wondered, Sister Qin, there's nothing here. It's just an open space. Jiang Qin didn't speak and casually caught a green turtle with her fishing rod. Then she threw it into the open space. Han Fei was shocked to find that the fish was gone. Jiang Qin said, that's why this place has never been found. It's too ordinary and inconspicuous. If I hadn't found some traces of a broken array in the rocks, I wouldn't have found this place. Han Fei took a deep breath. So, I'm going to jump in from here? Jiang Qin nodded. Han Fei's blood froze and he panicked. As a veteran gold digger, he liked to take risks, but the risks had to be worth it. This place was bare, leaving only a broken hole, and all the fish thrown in couldn't return. Damn, I'm afraid this is not a good deal. Looking at the empty seabed mud layer in front of him, this was definitely an illusion. In essence, it was a hole. Who knew where this hole led to? Han Fei was thinking. Jiang Qin's experiment showed that, in theory, it only allowed people below the level of dangling fishers to enter, so the strength wouldn't be too high. But after all, this place was probably related to Jiang Qin's secret, so it couldn't be just a small secret, so he'd better play it safe. Han Fei said calmly via voice transmission, Sister Qin, I'm going down. Jiang Qin said, be careful. Without saying a word, Han Fei jumped on the illusory mud. Immediately, his whole body fell down. It was dark below. Han Fei counted silently, 1, 2, 3. As soon as he counted 3 times, Han Fei appeared in Forge the Universe. The aura of this passage was a bit weird. Han Fei made a prompt decision. I'd better make a breakthrough before continuing to go down. Han Fei originally planned to make a breakthrough when he went to the Blue Sea Town, but now he had to. With a thought in his mind, the space in Forge the Universe changed, a gully appeared on the ground, and the spiritual spring poured into the gully, while he sat on the ground and ran the void fishing art. Billowing spiritual energy surged from the gully, and the meridians in Han Fei's body were surging. 1 hour later, Kacha! With a slight cracking sound, the barrier of an advanced great fishing master was broken. At this moment, spiritual energy rushed into his body faster and faster. After a while, Han Fei's strength kept rising. More than 3 hours later, Han Fei finally reached the peak level of an advanced great fishing master. Han Fei got up, exercised his muscles, and felt that his body was full of strength. From the intermediate level to the advanced level, his overall strength had increased by nearly 20%. Mobile phone station. Chapter 234. Han Fei was not in a hurry to go out. He didn't mind Jiang Qin waiting outside for a few more days. For the sake of his life, Han Fei immediately began to practice the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. A few days later, perhaps because Han Fei had been practicing this technique for a long time, he suddenly felt that the acupoints all over his body suddenly tightened. These acupoints seemed to have been prearranged, and the power flowing in them suddenly increased a little. Although it was not much, it was still nearly 5% increase. At this moment, Han Fei also faintly felt that there was a trace of spiritual energy in the gully, gradually entering his body through his skin. This had never happened before. Wow, have I made it? Han Fei couldn't help taking a breath. Since he began to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing, he regarded this technique as a tool to strengthen his physique. Although he later deduced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, he still didn't make it. At least his body couldn't absorb free spiritual energy. But at this time, he succeeded. It was very unexpected, or rather, it was a matter of course. He looked at the data. Owner Han Fate, level greater than 29, advanced Great Fishing Master, spiritual energy greater than 122,561, 2799, spiritual heritage, level 4, high-quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, weapon, blue sea wandering dragon daggers, main art, water vein technique, volume 3 of void fishing. Han Fei couldn't help blinking his eyes. The upper limit of spiritual energy this time was a bit too much. Was the upper limit of spiritual energy about to break through 2,800? He was afraid that the last 1 point would be the bottleneck. At this point, Han Fei found that his upper limit of spiritual energy was almost twice that of others. What did this mean? It meant that his body's endurance was twice that of others, and it also meant that his meridian's toughness, breadth, and physique were twice that of ordinary advanced great fishing masters. At this moment, Han Fei felt that he was in his peak state. He saw the stick inserted into the ground in Forge the Universe. This stick was pulled out from the back of the rock-holding turtle, and he touched it once. He had tried to drip blood on it to make it recognize him as its owner, but it was useless. Since then, he hadn't touched the stick because he couldn't lift it. At this moment, he wanted to give it a try. Pick it up. Han Fei grabbed the stick with both hands, but the stick was lifted with difficulty, and his face was still flushed. Bim, hoo, Han Fei gave up. It was still too heavy for him to carry. It should be known that his current strength was at least 4,000 jin, if not 10,000 jin. However, he still could not lift it. It was even heavier than the Jingu Bang. He might be able to wield the Jingu Bang a few times, but he couldn't even lift it. Forget it, you stay here for now. When I become a dangling fisher, I'll use you as a fire stick. Han Fei didn't try again, but took a deep breath and made up his mind. In the next moment, he appeared in the darkness. His body was still falling, but after 5 or 6 breaths of time, he reached the bottom. Bang! Han Fei didn't know what he smashed through. Anyway, he just smashed through it with a bang. What? Han Fei picked up the debris under his feet, only to find that he had smashed through a decaying wood. There was still a bit of color on the wood that was almost fading. Such a weak wood, it shouldn't be. Han Fei looked around. This was a very large room. It was about 100 square meters, and the floor of the room was littered with decorations. At this moment, it had long been covered with water moss. On the surrounding walls, there were all kinds of exquisite murals. As for the furnishings in the room, they were either tilted or broken. There were even many cracks in the walls of this room, through which he could see other rooms. Room? Did I fall from the bottom of the sea into a room? Han Fei didn't rush out but rummaged around. But as soon as he rummaged, he found that this room had been rummaged through. Many of the rotten wooden boxes had been opened, and one of the cabinets was also open. Someone has been here, looking for something? Han Fei frowned. Looking for something? Why was there a seal at the entrance? No. Han Fei's expression changed slightly. According to his understanding, someone must have come to look for something, which meant that the thing must be very precious, so someone had set a seal on the entrance above. If that thing had been found, why was the seal still there? But since the seal was still there, had the person looking for it gone out? Han Fei was shocked and perceived around with his spiritual perception. He drew out the 2 knives and walked through the door. There was no hurry to find the thing. It was important to figure out where this place was first. In the other room, it was still messy. Things were scattered all over the place. In the corner, there was a long and wide seat. However, unlike the previous room, Han Fei saw traces of battle. There was a big hole in this room, and the hole led to the outside of the room. Han Fei hurriedly ran over. Just one glance made Han Fei's heart jump. A ship? This was a huge ship. The width of the hull alone was nearly 100 meters. Han Fei hadn't seen the length yet, but it was definitely no less than 500 meters. How could such a big ship appear in an ordinary fishery? On the deck, there were a lot of battle traces. When Han Fei saw that the deck was littered with knife marks, he also saw a series of small holes that spanned across the entire hull. Han Fei remained calm. Someone had fought with some kind of mysterious creature here. Those small holes were not so much holes as footprints. Han Fei could only think of crabs and multi-legged worms that could make such small footprints. But crabs crawled sideways, so it could be ruled out. Then, it should be some kind of big worm, similar to the clam worm. Han Fei became more careful. He had to find a way to remove the seal. Otherwise, he didn't know what dangers he would encounter if he wandered around here. Puzzled, Han Fei didn't know what to look for. But he guessed that it was definitely not easy to destroy. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Han Fei touched Little White's head and said, "Little White, can you feel anything special here? Something with spiritual energy." Little White blinked its fish eyes, turned around, and then swam straight away. Han Fei was overjoyed. Look, Little White is really different. It's a treasure hunter. But when Han Fei saw the place Little White found, he was stunned. What the hell? A jade slip? Han Fei immediately picked up the jade slip, injected spiritual energy into it, and then he saw a combat skill. Double knife style, spirit level low quality combat skill. What kind of rubbish combat skill is this? Han Fei was about to throw it away, but on second thought, although he didn't need it, it was still a spirit level combat skill. It seemed not bad to improve the strength of the members of the fish dragons. Immediately, he stored this combat skill into Forge the Universe. Little White, can you feel anything else? As long as there is something different, I can. After searching 7 or 8 places in a row, Han Fei was almost speechless. What a broken ship! Isn't there anything decent in such a big ship? Only 7 or 8 high-quality pearls. What's the use of this thing? This time, Little White jumped to the inner layer of the cabin, wagging his tail at a rotten wooden wall. Han Fei was overjoyed and immediately broke the rotten wooden board. Sure enough, there was something special about it. Behind this wooden board was an exquisite wooden box. Even after a long time, the wooden box was still emitting a little bit of spiritual energy. Ordinary people really couldn't find it. The wooden box was carved with complicated patterns of water plants and weird arrays, with 3 words written on it: Sea Quelling Painting. Sea Quelling Painting? Han Fei didn't know what this sea quelling painting was, but if it was literal, it would be awesome. How could it be called sea quelling painting? Even the sea quelling pillar could calm the sea. Han Fei tried to open it, only to find that the box was sealed and couldn't be opened from the outside. He was about to split the box, but on second thought, what if he broke it? I'll keep it for now. Just when Han Fei put away the box, Little Black jumped out with a swish. Little Black, why are you running around again? He heard a rumbling sound from outside, followed by the sound of someone crawling on the ground. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and with a flash of spiritual energy, he summoned 9 Tails. 9 Tails was about to pound the floor when he was kicked by Han Fei. Behave yourself. There may be your kind outside. Let's go out and have a look. Chapter 235. Han Fei and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp rushed out one after the other. Xiao Hei was always the most worrisome. Whenever there was a fight, it would always be the first to step in. Fortunately, no one could see it. Anyone who could see it would be the first to get rid of it. As soon as Han Fei came out, he saw a big black centipede nearly 20 meters long crawling on the deck, and Little Black was on the centipede's head, opening his mouth wide as if he was about to bite it. Little Black, clang. Han Fei was speechless, only to see sparks flashing on the centipede's head, which made Han Fei shiver. How strong was Little Black's bite force? Could eat mines, metals, and so on. But when it bit on the head of this big centipede, it only made sparks. It could be seen how hard this centipede's carapace was. In his eyes, data about the big centipede emerged. Spirit-absorbing centipede, a centipede that had been sealed for a long time. Because it had been sealed in darkness for a long time, it was extremely short of spiritual energy. After a long time, it had mutated into a spirit-absorbing centipede, which could absorb free spiritual energy independently and absorb the enemy's spiritual energy with each attack. Nurture's spirit-absorbing bead, which can enhance Afaxu cultivation and affinity with spiritual energy. 37 exotic, ultra quality. 4 for 48 points inedible spirit-absorbing bead. Han Fei was speechless. Level 37? Not only was it 8 levels higher than him, but it was also an exotic creature, a very special monster with the word ultra quality. Swish, swish. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp rushed to the front of the big centipede. But how big was the nine-tailed mantis shrimp? How big was the spirit-absorbing centipede? Damn it, nine-tailed mantis shrimp, come back. Since the last time he fought with the purple-tailed scorpion king, he hadn't fought a second advanced creature. This spirit-absorbing centipede didn't look ordinary. Could the nine-tailed mantis shrimp beat it? The nine-tailed mantis shrimp twisted his butt and pounced on it. Because the centipede didn't find Little Black, it was furious when it saw the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, which was much smaller than itself. How dare such a small creature attack me? Boom, boom. At the moment when the two tentacles were about to approach, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp struck out with his hammers. At the moment of the attack, Han Fei could barely see the afterimage of shrimp mantis shrimp. With two loud bangs, the centipede's nearly 20-meter-long body was directly hammered. It was probably confused as well. What the hell was this? I haven't even done anything yet, and I've already taken 2 punches? Han Fei couldn't help but take a deep breath. The hard armor-like carapace was hammered into 2 pieces by the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. And the nine-tailed mantis shrimp took the opportunity to chase after him and punched him again. The centipede was stunned. It had never encountered such a tough thing. It immediately swung its nearly 20-meter-long body and seemed to want to entangle the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Swish! At the same time, flames burst out, and countless centipede claws rubbed the shell of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, which made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. Dang dang. Not only could the nine-tailed mantis shrimp beat the enemy, but the top of its forelimbs were actually hooks. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp seemed to have turned into a praying mantis, and its 2 claws directly stabbed into the centipede. At the same time, its 7 tails were like 7 long whips, lashing the centipede fiercely. However, Han Fei's face immediately changed. The spiritual energy of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was weakening. He immediately took out the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and instantly stabbed at the centipede. Unexpectedly, the spirit-absorbing centipede's defense seemed to be stronger than he had imagined. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers just cut its carapace and did not penetrate it. At this moment, the centipede was also furious and let go of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. The moment the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was released, it immediately ran to Han Fei. Han Fei saw that its body was full of scratches, and 2 of its shells were broken. His face immediately became ugly. The defense of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was not as good as that of this centipede. Yes, the gap in level was almost insurmountable. Looking at the nine-tailed mantis shrimp's big round eyes, it seemed to be sad. Han Fei was stunned. Did he see it wrong? The next moment, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp hugged his thigh, and its body trembled. Are you crying? Han Fei was speechless and kicked it. Fuck off, don't you have the nerve to cry? You can't beat me, so you run back and cry. Look at you. Attach. Han Fei chose to attach at once. After attaching, his strength was raised to the level of a peak-level great fishing master. At this time, coupled with the blue sea wandering dragon daggers, he might be able to fight. Of course, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers could be controlled remotely. Han Fei held the water-stirring seal in his hand, ready to smash the centipede to death. Crack, crack. The spirit-absorbing centipede ran very fast. Countless claws directly tore the deck and rushed at Han Fei frantically, while its mouth opened and closed. Han Fei looked at the huge body that surrounded him and thought, how can I let you succeed? Bam! The water-stirring seal turned into a huge phantom, smashing directly at the dense centipede legs. The deck was directly smashed through, and the hull of the ship let out a creaking sound. For a time, Han Fei and the centipede bombarded each other in the darkness. In just a moment, the entire deck area of hundreds of square meters was directly crushed into pieces of wood. Han Fei overestimated himself. Being hit by the centipede, he felt that his intestines were about to fall out. Ha! Before Han Fei could get angry, he saw more than one set of white bones in a corner under the deck. He was shocked. Why are these corpses lying there? Little Gold, come out. With a thought from Han Fei, the Feather God Ray appeared. Seeing Han Fei fighting, the Feather God Ray glared at the centipede and smashed its head at the centipede that was crawling over quickly. The centipede was a little stunned. The opponent's head is a bit hard. It seems that it can't beat it. The centipede seemed to be wondering whether to run away. First, a damn boxer and now a stubborn guy. Why is it so lively today? Swish, swish. Little Gold's two wings instantly swept across the centipede's claws. In Han Fei's shocked gaze, the extremely sharp centipede claws were cut off by Little Gold's wings. Wow! Is this the power of a legendary creature? It's too strong. Little Gold is only level 28. Seeing this, the centipede immediately tried to escape. Han Fei said, "Little Gold, hit it. Don't let it go." At this point, how could he let it go? In order to find fusion materials for the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, Han Fei had killed countless rare creatures. Its eighth tail hadn't grown out yet. Now, such an ultra-quality exotic creature was here. How could he let it go? Squeak! Little Gold spread its wings and rushed over like a bird. Han Fei thought it was going to bite with its mouth, but to his surprise, Little Gold hit it directly with its head. Bam! The cabin was penetrated again. The head of the centipede was dented and a wound ruptured, making it roll in the sawdust in pain. And Little Black, who had been watching from the side, took the opportunity to drill into the wound and began to bite crazily. Han Fei felt his blood freeze. "You'd better pray for yourself to meet a foodie like Little Black." Han Fei said, "Little Black, don't kill it." Han Fei released the fusion state with the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Seeing this, the latter rushed up again. At this moment, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was awe-inspiring. "How dare you bully me just now?" The nine-tailed mantis shrimp hammered the centipede so hard that it almost began to doubt its life. Han Fei shook his head and looked at this scene. Oh, what's so great about level 37? 2 legendary creatures, 1 mysterious creature, 3 big bosses ganged up on you. You win if you can hold on. After a while, Han Fei forcibly took back Little Black and then took the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Gold away. Looking at the dying centipede, he smiled brightly. Collect the demon. Without encountering any resistance, the dying centipede was easily collected by Han Fei. Han Fei kicked the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. You can absorb this level of creature. If you can't grow a tail later, I will chop off your other tails. At this moment, Han Fei searched in the ruins for a long time before he found the 3 corpses. Han Fei's face changed slightly. The bones of the 3 corpses were black and some were broken. It should be at the last moment that they knew they were going to die and didn't want to become the centipede's food, so they retreated here. There were only a few swords left beside the 3 of them, and they were all broken. Among them, half of a sword was inserted in the chest of one of the corpses. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Did they kill their own people? Shaking his head, Han Fei noticed that the hand of the person who was killed was still covering his stomach. Under the broken clothes, there seemed to be a piece of fish skin. He opened the fish skin and saw a few big words written on it. There is a traitor. The sea-quelling painting is in the boneyard. Mobile phone station. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.